Chapter 772. While Wang Taiyi was searching for Yi Chen, the experts of the demonic human clan were also searching for the murderer of their clansman. For a long time, the human devil clan had been the overlord of the chaotic demon sea. As long as the 10 great families willed it, they could uproot and annihilate all forces in the chaotic demon sea except for the human devil clan. But now, someone had killed more than 30 of their clansmen, 3 of whom had already reached half-step king realm. This was simply unforgivable. The demonic human clan couldn't be compared to humans. The number of humans was too great, numbering in the trillions, thousands of times more than the demonic humans. Therefore, it didn't matter how many died. Moreover, demonic human clans' reproduction rate was much lower than humans. Adding on the fact that their population was small, 1 death meant 1 less. Moreover, half-step kings were the wealth of the demonic human clan. They were existences with hopes of becoming kings. Losing 3 at once was not a small loss. Therefore, the demonic human clan dispatched a lot of experts this time, more than any time in the past. Merely mid-sea of Soul Realm and above demonic humans numbered 600. 6 half-step demon human kings. The 600 sea of Soul Realm demonic humans were divided into 3 groups, each led by 2 half-step demonic human kings. Apart from that, millions of 4-winged black demonic insects had also become the eyes of the demonic humans. As soon as a suspect appeared in their sight, they would immediately notice and rush over. This was not enough to show how much importance the demonic human clan attached to this matter. Apart from Sea of Soul Realm and half-step kings, the clan also dispatched a genuine demonic human king. Demonic human king was a king of the demonic human clan. Under similar cultivation bases, 2 life and death kings could contend against it. Buzz 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 buzz, with the scene as the center, group after group of 4-winged black demonic insects flew out like an inescapable net, slowly spreading out. Once this inescapable net took shape, one would truly be left with no path to the heavens and no door to the earth, unless one entered stunning sky or extreme void sky. However, one couldn't stay in these 2 skies for long. Stunning sky was filled with all kinds of pure yuan qi. Upon entering, one's Jin yuan would be consumed at a rapid pace. Extreme void sky was even more tyrannical, consuming 10 times faster than stunning sky. Pop! Above the ocean where the incident happened, a mass of black gas suddenly appeared. Within the black gas was a lean old man dressed in black with a profound aura. The skinny old man looked down and scanned the surroundings. Soon, the skinny old man found a wreckage at the bottom of the sea. This wreckage was the corpse of a demonic human. After being eaten by the demonic fish, it was badly mutilated, leaving only bits of flesh on the bones. The wreckage was pulled up by a mysterious force and floated in front of the old man. Stretching out his right hand, the old man exerted his strength through the air and abruptly inhaled. Kai! An almost inaudible sound of something tearing through the air rang out. As the old man exerted his strength to inhale, a faintly discernible aura shot out from the wreckage. The black-robed old man carefully grasped this wisp of aura and sensed something. Peak late sea of Soul Realm cultivation base, destruction sword intent. A moment later, the black-robed old man slowly spat out a few words. If Yi Chen were here, he would certainly be astonished. Not only could this man gather a wisp of faintly discernible aura from the wreckage, he could also discern the cultivation base and the sword intent he was using. This kind of ability was already not something a half-step king could accomplish. Only a life and death king could accomplish this. Killing a half-step king of my demonic human race with a cultivation base of peak late sea of Soul Realm. I wonder which power this person came from. Could it be the Blood Sword Palace? Not likely. Although the young master of the Bloodsword Palace is also at peak late sea of Soul Realm, his strength is inferior to this person. Moreover, the young master didn't comprehend the destruction sword intent. Apart from the young master of the Bloodsword Palace, who has a cultivation base of peak late sea of Soul Realm, there aren't many who can battle higher realms. The black-robed old man's gaze turned profound as he inwardly speculated. Whether he's from the Bloodsword Palace or not, killing a half-step king of my demonic human race will have to pay a sufficient price. Letting out a breath, the black-robed old man's gaze turned sharp. The wreckage couldn't bear the pressure of the old man's gaze and exploded, turning into nothingness. Breaking through from peak late sea of Soul Realm to half-step King Realm was a huge breakthrough, as well as a brand new beginning. Under half-step King Realm, the meridians were the circulation channels of Jin Yuan. If the meridians were damaged, the circulation of Jin Yuan would become sluggish, greatly reducing one's battle power. However, upon reaching half-step King Realm, not only the meridians, but also the blood circulation channels of Jin Yuan. Only by fusing Jin Yuan into the blood and forming a perfect circulation could one be considered to have officially stepped into half-step King Realm. However, achieving this was extremely difficult. Without outstanding talent and extraordinary willpower, half-step King Realm was like a flower in the mirror or the moon in the water. One could only stare at it helplessly. Fusing Jin Yuan into the blood was not a safe thing to do. The slightest bit of carelessness could lead to blood necrosis, weakening one's bodily functions, and reducing one's physical strength to the level of an old man past his prime. This was also the reason why half-step kings usually appeared in 5th grade and 4th grade powers. The chances of half-step kings appearing in 5th grade and below were extremely low. This was because when a 5th grade powers member tried to break through to half-step King Realm, even if something went wrong, they would have life and death kings to help them adjust their chi and blood. Or, they could spend a huge price to refine some precious medicinal pellets to treat blood necrosis. In short, as long as there was a life and death king, breaking through to half-step King Realm wouldn't be too dangerous. At worst, they could just wait until their body recovered and continue. Of course, this was a matter of having the ability to break through to half-step King Realm. If one didn't, it wouldn't have anything to do with them. Yi Chen had already consolidated his peak late sea of Soul Realm. In theory, he could attempt to break through to half-step King Realm. Although without many years of accumulation, the chances of success were low, it wasn't impossible. Inside the spacious and simple cave, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the hard ground with his palms facing the sky. Inside his body, Yi Chen's Jin Yuan flowed out of his dantian and slowly poured into his blood, attempting to fuse with it and circulate his Jin Yuan. There were many blood channels in the human body, and there were even more minute details. It was impossible to fuse them one by one. However, although breaking through to half-step King Realm was difficult, it didn't require one to fuse all the blood at once. One only needed to fuse a part of the blood and complete a perfect circulation. This process was complicated and slow, requiring extreme patience. One couldn't be impatient at all. In the beginning, the process was quite smooth. In a short half a month, Yi Chen made progress every day, and he was getting closer and closer to the perfect circulation of Jin Yuan and blood. However, as time passed, Yi Chen discovered that the further he went, the slower his progress became. Now, even after a few days, he hadn't made even the slightest bit of progress. It turned out that there was a time limit for Jin Yuan to fuse with the blood. After this time limit, the Jin Yuan would withdraw from the blood. Only by completing a perfect circulation would the Jin Yuan remain in the blood forever. However, it was simply too difficult. The speed at which the blood flowed was not very fast, not to mention that it was a perfect cycle. Every time a cycle was completed halfway, the true essence in the front would begin to withdraw. Although the true essence in the back would continue to fuse into the blood, it could only maintain a balance. This won't do. The Jin Yuan isn't pure enough. The time it stays in the blood is too short. If it accelerates the blood flow, my heart won't be able to bear it. The reason why Yi Chen dared to break through to half-step King Realm was because of his undying body. He didn't care about some minor injuries. However, the burden on his heart was too great, and it still exceeded the limits of his undying body. At most, he could only slightly overload it. After all, the heart was a major weakness of the human body, unlike other parts. Huff. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen forcefully exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and stood up. I wonder how Murong Qingcheng is doing. Her demonic power is very pure, and her 4th step demonic body is also stronger than my spirit body. She should have a high chance of entering half-step King Realm. Murong Qingcheng had demonic power essence in her body, which was the essence of king-grade demonic power. It had an extraordinary effect on refining demonic body. On the devouring island, her demonic body had successfully upgraded from 3rd step to 4th step, allowing her to break through to half-step king realm. Shaking his head, Yi Chen walked out of the cave and arrived at a spacious area outside. I've already obtained the foundation of Space Profound for a long time. My Space Profound has been steadily improving, approaching 40% completion. The might of Void-Shattering Finger containing Space Profound has also surpassed Golden Ripple. Unfortunately, Void-Shattering Finger is a finger art without the amplification of a sword. Moreover, its variations are too little. If I could create my own Space Profound sword art based on Space Profound, its might would be able to catch up to Waning Moon. Only by combining profound martial arts with artifacts could one erupt with greater might. Using the Void-Shattering Finger required artifact gloves, but since Yi Chen used a sword, wearing gloves would have a negative effect. Creating a Space Profound sword art was very useful to Yi Chen. Space Profound was one of the strongest profounds. 10% of it was equivalent to 30% of other profounds. Once it reached 40 to 50% completion, the Space Profound sword art created would surpass Waning Moon. Most importantly, Space Profound sword arts were unpredictable, far more threatening than Waning Moon. Standing on the empty ground, Yi Chen closed his eyes as an image appeared in his mind. It was a sword artist performing a sword art. This sword art was very mysterious and unpredictable. It was obvious that the sword was thrown out, but it was still very far away from the target, but in the next second, it had already destroyed the target. Plus, the sword art was extremely fast, creating a space-folding effect. Looking at it, one would not be able to tell the trajectory of the sword art at all. Clang! All of a sudden, Yi Chen opened his eyes and pulled out the Thunder Disaster Sword. Relying on his intuition, he slashed out 49 times, each sword faster than the previous one. One could see that Yi Chen's movements were exactly the same as the sword artist in his mind. However, the sword art's effect was not as good as the sword artist's in his mind. It could only make the sword art's trajectory blurry, creating countless afterimages, and was unable to create a spatial folding effect. Catcher, catcher, catcher. Even so, the surrounding boulders still shattered like broken mirrors. The ground beneath Yi Chen's feet also seemed to have turned into a huge piece of glass. Cracks spread everywhere before it collapsed with a loud rumble. This was not the effect of sword chi, but the power of space through sword arts. When Space Profound reached a certain level, no one under Life and Death Realm would be able to receive a single sword strike from Yi Chen. After all, a single sword strike from Yi Chen would be equivalent to tearing the space apart. Under Life and Death Realm, who could resist the tearing of space? Chapter 773. The tide slapped against the reefs at the edge of the island, again and again. Several li away from the island, a four-winged black demonic insect had unknowingly appeared there. Its body was motionless, and the 4 pairs of black wings on its back were rhythmically flapping up and down, maintaining an incomparably balanced state. At a glance, it seemed to be fixed there. The insect's head was round and full of compound eyes. At this moment, the scenery of the island appeared in its compound eyes. Some were near, some were far. The most bizarre thing was that it seemed to have a magnifying function. Before long, the image of a person appeared in its compound eyes. This person was none other than Yi Chen. Yi Chen still didn't know that he had been targeted by a 4-winged black demonic insect. After all, he was not an Iron Man, and couldn't release his soul power without restraint. Overconsumption of soul power would take a long time to recover. Not being able to recover in half a month was quite normal. After practicing sword arts for half a day, Yi Chen saw that Murong Qingcheng wasn't moving at all. He knew that she was still trying to break through to half-step king realm, so he didn't disturb her. Although he had failed to break through, he still had many other things to do. For example, comprehending Space Profound. The Space Profound he had obtained in the graveyard of 4 Extreme Emperor could be said to be a priceless treasure. With it, Yi Chen's speed of comprehending space had increased by several folds, and his own comprehension ability was several times that of ordinary people. With the two added together, it would be dozens of times, or even more than 20 times. Returning to the cave, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the ground and took a deep breath, entering an ethereal state. Then, he released his incorporeal soul power, spreading it over several hundred meters. The smaller the range of soul power, the less soul power would be consumed. With Yi Chen's soul power, he could maintain it for 10 days to half a month. Soul power was a perception many times greater than the 5 senses. Under Yi Chen's control, he gradually captured the spatial ripples within several hundred meters. The space was constantly fluctuating. Of course, these fluctuations were very small, so small that they were negligible. But they were still there. Space was illusory and unfathomable. Soul power was incorporeal and unfathomable. Only soul power could capture spatial ripples. This was also the reason why all life and death kings would dabble in space profound. Their soul power was too powerful. According to the basic knowledge of space profound in his head, Yi Chen used his soul power to capture the space energy fluctuations while comprehending the space profound. In another cave, Murong Qingcheng was sitting there with her legs crossed, unmoving. From time to time, a black brilliance blossomed from her body. This brilliance was sometimes strong, sometimes dim, sometimes ostentatious, and sometimes reserved. The interior of the cave was illuminated in a strange and dazzling light. At this moment, Murong Qingcheng was in the late stage of the half-step demon king realm. She was different from Yi Chen. She had demonic power essence within her body, and the demonic power she refined was exceptionally pure. If not for the limitation of realm, refining demonic power into half-step king realm wouldn't be a problem. After all, the demonic power essence was the demonic power essence of a demon king. Rather than refining, it was more appropriate to describe it as diluting and refining. The demonic power essence was first diluted and then refined into her demonic power. With such pure demonic power, Murong Qingcheng's chances of breaking through to half-step king realm were naturally higher than humans and other demonic humans. Apart from this, Murong Qingcheng had another huge advantage. As a demonic human with perfect bloodline and a 4th-step demonic body, her life level was higher than that of humans and demonic beasts. She was close to the life level of the demon race. Therefore, her heart's ability to produce blood was extremely powerful, and her heart's capacity far surpassed humans of the same level. For example, Yi Chen's blood flow was similar to that of humans. But now, her blood flow had reached a frightening level, and her heart was beating at a frightening frequency. It was no longer beating, but vibrating. Swish. When blood flowed normally, no sound could be heard. But now, Murong Qingcheng's blood was issuing a sound like a stream flowing down a mountain. Such a rapid flow caused Murong Qingcheng's fair face to turn red, making her look like a red beauty. Above her head, white mist curled up, faintly emitting a red light and a faint bloody aura. It's here. A day later, a large group of uninvited guests arrived on the ocean outside the island. These uninvited guests were the troops of the demonic human clan. There were 202 of them, 2 half-step demonic human kings and 200 of soul realm demonic humans. They were able to find this place because of the information transmitted by the 4-winged black demonic insect. As for finding this place in a day, it was mainly because they weren't far from the island. As soon as they obtained the whereabouts of the suspects, they immediately rushed over. White Nightmare, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch them with just the 2 of us. Right now, our best course of action is to use an enchantment to seal the island and prevent them from escaping. Among the 2 half-step demonic human kings, a rather fat middle-aged demonic human said. The half-step demonic human king called White Nightmare had a very strange appearance. His head was bald, and his face and head were covered in white spots. His eyes also had more whites than pupils, making them look like 2 black dots. He had no eyebrows and was emitting a sinister killing intent. That would be best. Let's use the hidden fog enchantment. White Nightmare nodded, his eyes fixated on the island. You 108, come out and surround the island. Use the hidden fog enchantment to seal the island. Don't let a fly or a bug escape. The fat demonic human ordered the demonic humans behind him. Yes. Without needing to be called out, 108 of soul realm demonic humans walked out and flew along the edge of the island. Seeing his clansmen carrying out the order and surrounding the island, the fat demonic man let out a sigh and said, killing my clansmen in the chaotic demonic ocean. I wonder who the other party is. Could it be a half-step king of the Bloodsword Palace or someone from the Skull Island? White Nightmare sneered, be it Bloodsword Palace or Skull Island, killing my clansmen will have to pay the price. That's natural. Although Bloodsword Palace and Skull Island are powerful, they're still lacking compared to my clan. The fat demonic human chuckled. As the two of them spoke, 108 light black pillars suddenly rose from the outer edge of the island. The pillars rose in an arc and collided with each other in the sky above the island. In the next moment, the island was covered by a light black membrane. The scene inside distorted and then disappeared completely. The light black membrane also gradually turned into mist. From the outside, it seemed as if there was no island at all. There was only thick black mist, rolling and surging. Success. Seeing this, the fat demonic human heaved a sigh of relief, and the smile on his face became even more radiant. I'll go test him. White Nightmare said indifferently before his figure flickered and shot toward the surging black mist. White Nightmare, don't be impulsive. The fat demonic human was startled. Rest assured, you still don't believe in my strength. Moreover, with the hidden fog enchantment, you can attack and retreat at will. White Nightmare's voice resounded. Hearing these words, the fat demonic human smiled bitterly. He was naturally aware of White Nightmare's strength. Of the 3 half-step kings who had died half a month ago, the strongest was Jiu Li. Jiu Li could be considered a powerful half-step king among the demonic humans. However, White Nightmare's strength was a level higher than Jiu Li's. He was a peak half-step king of the demonic human clan. Under the same level, a demonic human was equivalent to 2 humans. White Nightmare could contend against 2 peak half-step kings without any problem. However, the opponent could kill 3 half-step kings, including Jiu Li, as well as more than 30 of Soul Realm demonic humans. His strength was no small matter. With White Nightmare's strength, he might not be able to deal with him easily. Fortunately, as White Nightmare had said, with the hidden fog enchantment, he could attack and retreat at will. There was no need to worry about his safety. Fine, let's see how strong this person is first. If he can be dealt with, there's no need to wait for others. With this thought in mind, the fat demonic human followed. On the island, Yi Chen, who was comprehending the space profound, felt something amiss. Previously, he could still feel the gale blowing through the mountain. But now, the gale had stopped, and the island was completely silent, as if it had been isolated from the world. Buzz. His soul power, which was only several hundred meters wide, suddenly expanded, instantly covering the entire island and continuing to spread out. Not good. It's an enchantment. His soul power was obstructed by a layer of barrier, as if it had sunk into a swamp. In his soul perception, there was a boundless black fog surging out. Rip. With a flash of sword light, Yi Chen broke out of the mountain and appeared above the island. The ocean outside the island had disappeared from his line of sight, replaced by layers of black fog. It was exactly the same as in his soul perception. At this moment, an opening appeared in the black fog, and 2 figures flew in. Demonic humans. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. They were naturally White Nightmare and the fat demonic human. They had also noticed Yi Chen. Are you the one who killed my demonic human clansman? The fat demonic human shouted. Yi Chen said without batting an eyelid, I'm afraid you're not here to ask whether I'm a murderer or not. So, why bother asking? With the demonic human race's tyranny, as long as he was a suspect, it didn't matter if he was the murderer or not. Then you're the murderer. White Nightmare sized up Yi Chen and said coldly. Correct. Yi Chen didn't plan to hide it. There was no point in hiding it. Very good. Being able to kill Jiu Li means you have some strength. I, White Nightmare, will test you first. Hearing Yi Chen admit that he was the murderer, White Nightmare released his killing intent like a devil. Bring it on then. Yi Chen was confident that he could break the barrier. The barrier was actually a method of using spatial power, but it was powered by formations. With the void-shattering finger, it shouldn't be hard to open a path through the barrier. However, he couldn't leave the island right now. Murong still hadn't come out, which meant that she was in a crucial moment of breaking into the half-step king realm. Once interrupted, she would need a long time to break into the half-step king realm again. The details were very complicated. Therefore, he had to observe the situation first. Duo Long, don't do anything. I'll deal with him. White Nightmare said to the fat demonic human. Be careful. The fat demonic human took a step back and glanced at the place where Murong Qingcheng was cultivating. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 774. White Nightmare didn't have the perfect demonic human bloodline, so he still cultivated Jin Yuan. However, his Jin Yuan was contaminated with a large amount of demonic qi. This demonic qi mixed with Jin Yuan, but not only did it not decrease the destructive power of Jin Yuan, it instead made it even more berserk. As White Nightmare circulated his Jin Yuan with all his strength, an ash-grey qi flow appeared outside his body and violently revolved around him. A frightening pressure swept out in all directions, dispersing much of the black mist at the edge of the island. Some of the small hills on the island even turned into ashes, scattering between the heaven and earth. Although this cultivation base is not as good as Blackwater Alliance's Wang Tai, it's not the slightest bit inferior to Flame Burst King. In terms of pressure, Flame Burst King is a lot weaker. Seems like Demonic Human Clan is worthy of being the ruler of chaotic demonic ocean. Their resources are unimaginable. Half-Step King was a process of accumulating Jin Yuan. The more vigorous the Jin Yuan, the more hope one had of reaching peak Half-Step King, and the chance of breaking through to life and death realm. If one's Jin Yuan accumulation was insufficient, then breaking through to life and death realm would be a long way off. It was extremely difficult for a half-step king to accumulate Jin Yuan. If one cultivated with upper-grade spirit stones, one might not be able to reach peak half-step king in 100 years. Cultivating with supreme-grade spirit stones would increase the speed by many folds, and the best choice was none other than Jin Yuan crystals. This was a shortcut. Unfortunately, supreme-grade spirit stones were too hard to find. Even 5th-grade sects might not have much in stock, and Jin Yuan crystals could only be produced by life and death kings. Flame Burst King's cultivation base was so deep because he was trapped on Devouring Island. Every month, he would have a lot of Jin Yuan crystals for cultivation. Wang Tai's cultivation base was twice that of Flame Burst King, and he was suspected to be a strongest half-step king. This was also because he was an important figure of Blackwater Alliance, so he didn't need to worry about Jin Yuan crystals. The Thunder Spirit King from the True Spirit Continent was one of the top half-step king warriors, so it would be impossible for him to have an endless amount of extreme rank spirit stones, not to mention Jin Yuan crystals. He might have been lucky enough to get some other treasures to increase his cultivation, since he was not that old after all. If he were to rely on accumulating his cultivation, it would take him at least dozens of years to reach that level. Therefore, Yi Chen clearly understood that cultivation talent was important, but so were resources. For example, in Half-Step King Realm, if one had sufficient resources, one's cultivation base could increase by 10 times, or even dozens of times. Others wouldn't be able to catch up no matter how hard they tried. Bang! He took a step forward, and energy ripples spread in all directions. Bai Hao roared. His arms turned into countless phantoms, attacking Yi Chen fiercely. The space in front of White Nightmare distorted, and a large amount of grayish-white energy shot out like sharp blades. Some spun, some slashed, and some collided with each other, changing directions. In an instant, the dense grayish-white energy was like an inescapable net, enveloping Yi Chen's figure. Yi Chen's eyes were sharp as he observed the trajectory of the qi flow. He then pulled out his Thunder Disaster Sword, slashing upwards, slashing sideways, sweeping, and stabbing. Although there were a lot of grey qi flows, none of them could get within 3 meters of Yi Chen. It was as if this area was an absolute domain that nothing could get close to. Dang! In the void, some of the qi flows collided and changed directions again. However, it was futile. Yi Chen's spiritual sword was extremely fast and silent. Sometimes, the qi flows were clearly coming from behind Yi Chen. Yi Chen was intercepting the qi flows in front of him, but they would be shattered by the time they got within 3 meters. Yi Chen simply didn't know when Yi Chen would counterattack. Under the life and death realm, Yi Chen's sword arts were already at an unfathomable realm. Any offensive techniques would be useless against him. As if realizing this, White Nightmare gave up on fighting speed and switched to a powerful killing move. Void Forcing Chop. White Nightmare roared, and his sturdy right hand turned into a bone blade. Grayish-white chi curled around the bone blade as he launched a powerful strike at Yi Chen. Rip! Grayish-white blade chi slashed down with peerless tyranny. Yi Chen's body slanted upwards. Facing the blade chi, he swept his sword diagonally, and a dark golden ripple burst forth, destroying White Nightmare's killing move. At the same time, Yi Chen's left hand was not idle either. His fingers formed a sword and pointed at the nearby White Nightmare. Go! The blood-ruined sword left its scabbard and turned into 9 sword images, shooting at White Nightmare. Imperial Sword Attack. White Nightmare was gobsmacked. He had heard of this lost sword art before. It was said that in ancient times, there was an era of swordsmen. There were many swordsmen among martial artists, and the Imperial sword art was one of the most legendary sword arts. This sword art had an extremely high requirement on soul power. Without a soul power talent, one could not bring out the essence of this sword art. Flying swords controlled by the Imperial sword art were incomparably fast. Before the enemy could even react, they would be pierced through the heart or decapitated. It was impossible to defend against. Cultivated to the highest realm, one could unleash 81 swords simultaneously, striking fear into the hearts of others and forcing them to retreat. Although Yi Chen's Imperial sword art had only reached the realm of 9 swords simultaneously, it could not be looked down upon. Just the speed of the flying swords was enough to make many people suffer. Having no time to defend, White Nightmare crossed his arms and curled his body into a ball. Grayish-white chi crazily revolved around him, forming a shield of light. Ding 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 ding, rip. The majority of the 9 sword phantoms were repelled. Only the blood-ruined sword's attack power was the strongest. It instantly pierced through White Nightmare's protective Jin Yuan and was about to strike his body. Get lost. White Nightmare's curled body stretched out, and the powerful Jin Yuan in his body erupted like a sun, blasting away the blood-ruined sword's main body. What a powerful Jin Yuan! Yi Chen squinted his eyes. This sword of his could already kill the majority of half-step kings. Half a month ago, the middle-aged demonic man had suffered a bit of injury when facing the Imperial sword art. Who would have thought that White Nightmare's Jin Yuan would be so much stronger than that of the middle-aged demonic man? The Imperial sword art would be ineffective. After repelling the blood-ruined sword's main body, White Nightmare hastily retreated. There was a shallow sword scar on his arm, but it could only be regarded as a flesh wound. The sword chi contained within had long been forced out by his Jin Yuan. However, Yi Chen was only at the peak of late Sea of Soul realm. If he were to advance to half-step king realm, wouldn't he be killed in one sword strike? White Nightmare, delay him. At this moment, the fat demonic man suddenly shot a glance at White Nightmare. What are you doing? White Nightmare transmitted his Jin Yuan. His companion is there, and he should be cultivating in seclusion. As long as we capture his companion, we can make him restrain himself and bring him back alive. The fat demonic man's thoughts were deeper than White Nightmare's. Capturing Yi Chen alive was more beneficial than killing Yi Chen. At this moment, he had already determined the specific location of Yi Chen's companion. All right. White Nightmare faintly nodded. He was not an honorable person. For the sake of his goal, he would be unscrupulous. Buzz. A huge iron shield appeared in his left hand as he inwardly thought, close combat is my advantage. Let's see how you resist. Swish. Holding the shield, White Nightmare pounced at Yi Chen. Dragging things out like this is not a solution. This place has already been discovered, and more demonic humans are rushing over. I'd better kill these two first. Yi Chen's killing intent was set, and he didn't want to drag things out any longer. Waning Moon. Holding the sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen slashed down with all his might. The crescent-shaped sword energy looked like a black crescent moon as it flew out, leaving a clear sword mark in the air that did not disappear for a long time. Facing this sword, White Nightmare felt as if the entire world had disappeared, and he had lost track of Yi Chen as well. It was as if he was flying in a boundless white world, and what greeted him was a boundless black sword energy. I have to block it. White Nightmare didn't have the time to launch an attack. He raised the huge iron shield in front of him and shrunk his body behind it. As Zhen Yuan poured into the shield, it blossomed with a grey-white radiance and rapidly enlarged into a small mountain, blocking the black sword energy. Clang! Dazzling sparks flew everywhere, and cracks appeared on the shield in White Nightmare's hand. The cracks spread out from the sword mark in the center, producing a teeth-numbing metal cracking sound. If not for White Nightmare's Zhen Yuan being strong enough, the shield would have long since shattered. There was a loud bang. White Nightmare held the shield upside down as his whole body shot out. He came and went quickly, spurting out a mouthful of blood in midair. His face was extremely pale. On the other side, the fat demonic man had flown toward Murong Qingqing's seclusion location at an extreme speed the moment Yi Chen made his move. However, he didn't expect White Nightmare to be defeated so quickly. He didn't have much time left, so he had to capture Yi Chen's companions first and make them hesitate. Scram! Yi Chen sensed the fat demonic man's movements and saw that he wasn't far from Murong Qingqing's seclusion cave. Ordinary sword chi wouldn't be able to catch up. Yi Chen's expression turned cold as he extended his left index finger and pointed at the fat demonic man. It was precisely the void-shattering finger. The trajectory of the finger energy couldn't be seen, but Yi Chen's finger only pointed once, and the space around the fat demonic man immediately distorted. The boundless finger energy sent him flying, making him somersault in the air. Swoosh swoosh. With one finger attack, Yi Chen repeatedly used the void-shattering finger. Transparent traces of distortion appeared in the air, exploding around the fat demonic man. What a powerful finger energy! The fat demonic man turned pale with fright and retreated again and again, unable to get close to Murong Qingqing. Go! With a loud shout, the fat demonic man no longer had the heart to fight. He flew toward the black mist at the edge of the island and roared at White Nightmare. Yi Chen's expression turned even colder as he chased after him. However, the barrier's power was extremely mysterious. Yi Chen had only entered a few dozen meters into the black mist when he lost track of the two. Moreover, he himself was about to get lost in the black mist. Left with no choice, Yi Chen could only retreat from the black mist and return to the sky above the island. Outside the barrier, White Nightmare continuously vomited blood. We underestimated him. Seeing White Nightmare's appearance, the fat demonic man said with a gloomy expression. White Nightmare waved his hand. I'm going to meditate. Don't let anyone disturb me. His injuries were too severe. Even with a demonic human's physique, he couldn't bear it. Landing on a huge reef outside the island, White Nightmare sat cross-legged and took out a scarlet pill from his storage ring. Swallowing it, he closed his eyes and focused on healing. Chapter 775. His injuries are so heavy. The fat demonic man thought that White Nightmare had only suffered ordinary injuries. How could he have imagined that even speaking would be exhausting? Moreover, the pellet he took out was the famous Blood Yuan pellet of the demonic human clan. This kind of pellet was only used when suffering from incurable injuries. Even half-step demonic human kings like them only had one pellet each. After using it, they would have to wait until next year to reclaim it. This kid can't be dealt with alone. I'll have to wait for all four of them to arrive before using the six-way cloud pollution. The fat demonic man inwardly said. Inside the enchantment, on the island, putting away the thunder disaster sword, Yi Chen turned around and glanced at Murong Qingqing's seclusion. I wonder when Murong Qingqing will finish her seclusion and become a half-step demonic human king? Yi Chen was a bit hesitant. If Murong Qingqing still needed a few more days to finish her seclusion, the longer he stayed here, the more danger he would face. Who knew how many experts the demonic human clan had sent? Once the number of Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans reached a certain level, coupled with a few half-step demonic human kings, he would have no choice but to flee. What he was most worried about was whether the demonic human clan had sent a demonic human king. Life and death kings were the peak strength of Elysium. Only by reaching this realm could one truly move freely between heaven and earth. Life and death kings were extremely difficult to kill. Among them, even the weakest had cultivated limb rebirth. As long as their head and heart were not destroyed, they would be completely fine. At the flesh derivation realm, even if they were beaten into meat paste, they could come back to life. The most powerful was the blood rebirth realm. As long as a drop of blood remained, even the smallest drop of blood could be reborn. Being chased by a demonic human king was the most frightening thing. Forget it. I'll wait one more day. If it doesn't work, I'll wake Murong up and have her break the enchantment. Relaxing his furrowed brows, Yi Chen said inwardly. However, I only have a certain amount of confidence in breaking the barrier. I might not succeed. I should take this opportunity to comprehend the space ultimacy. Every little bit counts. Right now, I'm only one step away from reaching 40% of the space ultimacy. Maybe I can reach it. 10% of space profound was equivalent to 30% of ordinary profounds, and 40% of space profound was equivalent to 120% of ordinary profounds. This was already more powerful than the perfection of ordinary profounds. Once he reached this realm, the might of void-shattering finger alone would not be inferior to waning moon. Returning to his cave, Yi Chen continued to comprehend the space profound, trying to figure out the basics of it. In the abode where Murong was, the black light flickered more and more frequently. The white mist had already filled the entire abode. It was so hot that one could not even see their fingers if they stretched out their hands. In the center of the cave, Murong Qingcheng was covered in a thick white mist, which was rising up from the top of her head in an endless stream. On the other hand, Murong Qingcheng's face was abnormally red, and her lips were starting to feel dry, not as smooth and moist as before. Her blood flowed faster, evaporating the water in her body. Even though she had the perfect demonic human bloodline, she couldn't withstand the rapid loss of water. After all, she was still a flesh body, not an energy body. Water was very important to a living being. Time passed bit by bit. Murong Qingcheng's body was losing more and more water. Her lips started to crack, and her long black hair started to lose its luster. Meanwhile, her breathing was getting heavier and heavier. Night fell, and a waning moon hung in the sky. Both inside and outside the enchantment were racing against time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, the sound of something tearing through the air could be heard in the distance. It was extremely fast. Previously, it had been indistinct, but in the blink of an eye, it could be heard clearly. They're here. The fat demonic human revealed a happy expression. He stood up and flew into the sky. Haha, Dolong, I didn't expect you to arrive first and even set up the hidden fog enchantment. More than 200 people flew over. The one speaking was a red-robed demonic human. He was tall and burly, with a square head and a face covered in black scales. Hey Lin, you guys are so slow. The fat demonic human Dolong laughed. We were a bit slow. We also had a few suspects, but they were too weak. They couldn't be the culprit, so I killed them casually. The red-robed demonic human Hey Lin didn't mind. Yes, I killed them. Dolong nodded. Hey. Why is White Nightmare injured? Who injured him? The grey-robed demonic human beside Hey Lin exclaimed. Hearing this, Hey Lin also looked over. Dolong's expression darkened. We've already fought with the culprit who killed our clansman. He injured White Nightmare. This person is so strong. Can you tell us in detail? Hey Lin's expression was grave. Doran told the two of them everything that had happened. White Nightmare almost died at his hands. Hey Lin said in a low voice. White Nightmare's strength was the strongest in their group, but even he had suffered a crushing defeat at Yi Chen's hands. One could imagine how powerful Yi Chen was. I was planning to go in and kill the culprit right now. Seems like we'll have to wait a bit longer. The grey-robed demonic human glanced at the enchantment and said. Right. White Nightmare is currently recovering from his injuries. The three of us don't have much assurance. Of course, with several hundred clansmen, we don't need to fear him. As long as he doesn't run, killing him won't be a problem. However, there's a chance that he might escape. Once he does, It'll take a lot more time to find him. Wait for blue blood and the rest to arrive. With the 6 of us working together and the 6-way cloud pollution, even a strongest half-step king won't be able to escape unscathed. Let's wait. The 3 chose a towering reef and sat cross-legged, calmly waiting. Time flew by, and a smear of reddish-orange appeared on the ocean. Before long, an intense ray of sunlight shone from the end of the ocean. The sky was bright. An abnormally powerful spatial ripple transmitted from Yi Chen's cave. Under this spatial ripple, the mountain peak distorted like a reflection in the water. As the water rippled, the reflection naturally rippled along with it. It was an incomparably profound scene. The frequency of the spatial ripple increased, and the mountain peak distorted more and more. Finally, peng! The entire mountain peak shattered like a mirror, folding into countless pieces and scattering into a pile. On top of the pile of rubble, Yi Chen floated, his long hair fluttering in the wind. One could see the space around his body distorting, as if he was not in this world. 40% space profound, done. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen revealed a joyous expression. For Extreme Emperor's foundation of space profound was too precious. With this foundation, Yi Chen was no longer like before, fumbling about on his own. Sometimes, he would wander aimlessly and waste a lot of time. With the help of the foundation, Yi Chen could comprehend space profound in a regular pattern. Although he might not make any progress at times, once he did, it would lead to a chain of comprehensions. 40% space profound was already equivalent to 120% of ordinary profounds. Even the majority of life and death kings might not be able to compare to him in terms of space profound. After all, Yi Chen's comprehension ability was 5 times that of ordinary people, and he also had the foundation of space profound. His superiority was simply too great. After this matter, I'll start creating space profound sword arts. Only by creating my own space profound sword art can I display the full effect of space profound. Other people's profound martial skills were others in the end, and their perception would not be as deep. Nobody could understand their own profound martial skills as well. Hey! Murong's side seems to have made great progress. Floating in the air, Yi Chen sensed a powerful demonic ripple coming from Murong Qingcheng. This demonic ripple was no longer at Sea of Soul Realm, but close to Half-Step King Realm. Evidently, Murong Qingcheng was about to break through, perhaps in the next moment. Haha, you're all here. Just as Yi Chen exited his seclusion, a new situation occurred outside the enchantment. Another group of demonic humans rushed over, 202 in number. Adding the others, all the experts dispatched by demonic humans had arrived. We were just waiting for you. Black Scales let out a sigh of relief and smiled. What? The person inside the enchantment is very troublesome. Even the 4 of you can't handle him? Of the 2 half-step demonic human kings, one had light blue skin while the other had a wooden expression. Sensing the problem, the blue-skinned half-step demonic human king said, "He's much more troublesome than you think. But, now that everyone is here, he won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. He can only obediently wait to be captured. White Nightmare's treatment is almost complete." At this moment, the fat demonic human duo Long said, It's a good time. About half the time it takes to brew a cup of tea later, White Nightmare, who was sitting cross-legged on a reef, opened his eyes. Surging Zhen Yuan rushed out, shattering the surrounding reef and reversing the waves. He stood up and flew to the side of the group, then said with killing intent, "Let's do it. Go, let's go." Duo Long signaled the Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans to open a hole in the enchantment. Swish. Their figures flickered as they entered, and the other Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans followed behind, flying in batches. The enchantment closed, leaving only 108 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans in charge of maintaining the enchantment. 6 half-step demonic human kings and 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans. Yi Chen's complexion was unsightly. He didn't expect so many experts to arrive. 1 White Nightmare was already not weak, and 5 half-step demonic human kings were no small matter. Moreover, 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans were already a medium-sized force, capable of sweeping across half-step kings. Yi Chen was astonished, But White Nightmare and the rest were even more astonished. They were not astonished by Yi Chen, but by Murong Qingqing's seclusion location. An extremely pure demonic power ripple was transmitted from there. It should be known that demonic power could only be cultivated by perfect demonic human bloodline. Humans and ordinary demonic humans simply couldn't cultivate it. Could this kid's companion be a perfect demonic human? This was simply unimaginable. Moreover, from the demonic power ripple, the other party seemed to be in the process of breaking through. Once a perfect demonic human broke through to the half-step king realm, they would become a perfect half-step king. Chapter 776. Perfect half-step demonic human king. This was no joke. It represented the most perfect half-step demonic human king, as well as the most invincible. Moreover, the opponent cultivated demonic power, which was higher than Jin Yuan. It was a higher level energy. Under the same cultivation base, those who cultivated demonic power could instantly kill those who didn't. This was the disparity between them. Apart from this, as members of the demonic human clan, the six also knew that perfect demonic vessels could awaken innate abilities, which would become more and more frightening along with the increase in realm. For example, if the innate ability was defense, then it would become more and more powerful along with the increase in realm. Even if the opponent's cultivation base was much higher, they would still find it hard to break through. They had only come to capture or kill the murderer. How could they have imagined that they would run into a perfect demonic vessel? The six exchanged glances. Haha. Black Scales laughed heartily and said to the five, "This is our luck. Perfect demonic vessel bloodline. Even my chaotic demon ocean lineage has only cultivated two of them. One is at mid-sea of soul realm, and the other is only at late astral reaching realm. If we capture this person and bring him back, the patriarch and the rest will certainly reward us handsomely. Jin Yuan crystals and extreme-grade spirit stones will not be lacking. I wonder where she came from. Apart from our chaotic demon ocean, are there other demonic human clans that can raise a perfect demonic vessel?" Dolong asked. The blue-skinned demonic human said, "My chaotic demon ocean is known as the 10 Great Clans. In fact, in ancient times, there were more than 10 demonic human clans. There were hundreds of them. However, with the passage of time, some clans gradually declined until they disappeared. Some clans hid in the dark, never seeing the light of day. Isn't there a Yuan clan on True Spirit Continent? I heard they also have 2 demonic human kings. Perhaps she came from the Yuan clan. Who cares about the Yuan family? Would they dare to fight against our top 10 families?" Earlier on, the leader and the others had already planned to go to the True Spirit Continent and force the Yuan family to migrate over, turning our demi-demon race into the top 11 families. The perfect demi-demon bloodline that they have raised would naturally have to serve us as well. It is only natural. Haha, looks like the heavens favor my demonic human clan. One day, my demonic human clan will unite the entire Elysium. Hearing this, Yi Chen creased his brows. He didn't expect that the demonic human clan would stretch their hands this far. They actually had their eyes on the True Spirit Continent's demonic human clans, and even wanted to force the Yuan clan to migrate over. Since the Yuan clan had migrated over, the Murong clan and other demonic human clans would not be able to escape either. After all, their strength was too weak, and it was impossible for them to contend against the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan. Not to mention them, any power on True Spirit Continent seemed weaker than the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan. Murong being targeted by them was definitely a troublesome matter. I was too careless. If I had known this would happen, I would have interrupted Murong's breakthrough and left this place. Yi Chen's eyes narrowed as a cold light flashed within them. However, according to our demonic human clan's historical records, once the perfect demonic human bloodline breaks through to the perfect half-step demonic human king realm, its battle prowess will be unparalleled. With the 6 of us and 500 clansmen, it won't be difficult to defeat or kill her. However, it won't be easy to capture her. The grey-robed demonic human said with a frown. White Nightmare's killing intent overflowed, there's no need to waste so much effort. As long as we injure her with all our strength, we can bring her back. You're right. Even if she becomes a perfect half-step demonic human king, she will need time to familiarize herself with her strength. She won't be able to excavate her strength to the limit so quickly. Duo Long nodded. The six didn't have any intention of interrupting Murong Qingqing's breakthrough. After all, the breakthrough of a perfect demonic human bloodline was no small matter. Once interrupted, who knew what would happen? In the worst case, they might bring back a cripple, and they would be punished. Therefore, they could only wait for Murong Qingqing's breakthrough before capturing her. In any case, with their current strength and numbers, they didn't need to worry about not being able to deal with her. Before that, we have to take care of this trouble first. Turning his head, White Nightmare looked at Yi Chen with a sinister gaze, his white freckled face brimming with killing intent. Since she has the perfect demonic human bloodline, there's no need to keep her alive, lest something unexpected happens. Black Scales sneered. Seems like you're quite confident. Yi Chen secretly accumulated his strength. A peerless destruction sword intent converged in his sea of soul, ready to erupt at any time and destroy everything. You think that with our strength, we shouldn't be confident? The blue-skinned demonic human looked at Yi Chen with a mocking expression. Don't waste words with him. Let's attack together and kill him. The destructive power of 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans was too great, and could easily destroy the entire island. Therefore, the six decided to personally take action and kill Yi Chen. With their control ability, as long as they paid the slightest bit of attention, the island wouldn't suffer too much pressure. Very well, I'll kill you as well. Yi Chen's body suddenly leaned forward. Without any warning, he unsheathed the Thunder Disaster Sword and slashed at the sixth waning moon. Buzz! The black crescent-shaped sword energy seemed as if it wanted to devour the whole world. The scorching sun in the sky dimmed, losing its splendor. As the sword energy advanced, a pure destruction sword intent spread out like a storm, engulfing everything. At this moment, Yi Chen exerted his strength to the limit. Bastard, be careful. White Nightmare, who had tasted the might of this sword, roared. Grey-white Zhen Yuan gushed out of his body and surged forward like a surging tide. Apart from Duo Long, the other four already knew that Yi Chen had an extremely powerful sword art. Facing this sword art, they couldn't be careless and had to join hands to defend. Otherwise, their lives would be in danger. Therefore, including Duo Long, all five of them operated their Zhen Yuan to the limit and rushed out together. Converging with White Nightmare's grey-white Zhen Yuan, they formed a multicolored river of Zhen Yuan and intercepted the black sword energy. Rumble. The black sword energy bombarded the river of Zhen Yuan with an unstoppable momentum, bursting out energy ripples that distorted the enchantment above the island. Layers upon layers of black mist were annihilated, as if a black sheet of paper had been painted with a different color, leaving a large empty space. The sun and moon lost their radiance, and the heaven and earth lost their color. The spectating sea of soul realm demonic humans all lost their hearing and sight. They couldn't feel anything, as if time had frozen in this space. Dawn. It was unknown how much time had passed. Perhaps it was a very long time, or perhaps it was only an instant, but everyone's hearing was restored. However, the loud noise that followed made them dizzy. Their vision turned black, and they almost fell from the sky. Bearing the brunt of the attack, White Nightmare and the other demonic humans couldn't help but fly back. A trace of blood leaked out from the corner of their mouths, their complexions slightly pale. Meanwhile, Yi Chen also retreated a dozen steps, his clothes fluttering in the wind. How can he be so powerful? Even with the combined strength of the six of us, we can barely block him. Facing him alone, won't we die without a doubt? Black Scales was both startled and furious. Duo Long said, take out the six-way cloud polarity. Otherwise, our chances of killing him won't be high unless we have 500 of our clansmen attack together. Ien, this kid must be dealt with the six-way cloud polarity. A gloomy light flickered in the hand of the grey-robed demonic human, and a wrist-thick chain of unknown length appeared. The chain was black, with a barb at the front and a ring at the back. The ring was tied to a thin chain, and the front of the chain was a buckle that seemed to be able to hold onto something. The chain was clearly an artifact, emitting an extremely powerful fluctuation. However, according to Yi Chen's eyesight, this chain was merely a half-step extreme grade artifact. He didn't know what kind of mysteries it had. Connect. The blue-skinned demonic human roared. Ka. A shocking scene occurred. The ends of the chains in the hands of the 6 people could actually connect with each other, interlocking with each other. In this way, the chains in the hands of the 6 people could be considered as one, turning from individual to whole. Even an idiot could tell that the power of the chains was different. Kill. The 6 lined up and brandished the chains in their hands, lashing at Yi Chen. Crack. A mountain on the island was only grazed by a chain, and it immediately turned into ashes, blown away by the qi. Meanwhile, the other 5 chains attacked at Yi Chen one after the other. Black qi surged out from the surface of the chains, making them look very thick. At first glance, they looked like 5 black flood dragons dancing in the air, trying to tear Yi Chen into pieces. Ding! His figure flickered as Yi Chen held the Thunder Disaster Sword and clashed head-on with one of the chains. Immediately, an incomparably frightening power transmitted from the chain and struck Yi Chen's body along the Thunder Disaster Sword. Yi Chen's entire body was blasted away. Although he had made ample preparations, he didn't expect the chains might to be this powerful. How was this a half-step extreme grade artifact? It was most likely a pseudo-extreme grade artifact. With the 6 of them using a pseudo-supreme grade artifact, although their movements were inconvenient, their Zhen Yuan was more abundant. After all, the Zhen Yuan of 6 people added together was not something a single person could compare to. He finally understood the use of the 6-way cloud pollution. With it, the 6 of them could completely contend against a strongest half-step king. What? Didn't kill him? Didn't injure him either? Duo Long was astonished. So that's how it is. He's wearing a pseudo-extreme grade defensive artifact. No wonder he can come out unscathed. Seeing the bronze runes on Yi Chen's protective Zhen Yuan, White Nightmare immediately understood. So what if he has a pseudo-extreme grade defensive artifact? His cultivation base is only at the peak late sea of Soul Realm. He simply can't bring out the full might of a pseudo-extreme grade defensive artifact. Moreover, activating a pseudo-extreme grade defensive artifact requires a large amount of Zhen Yuan. He can't use it more than a few times. Kill. With that thought in mind, the 6 of them continued to wave their chains and attack Yi Chen. Whatever the chains that were spewing out with the black qi would be destroyed. Dang dang dang. Yi Chen unceasingly waved his sword to counterattack. Due to his apprehension of the chain's destructive power, he had to send out sword qi through the air to block the chain. However, the sword qi couldn't compare to the attack of the sword itself, and was easily shattered by the chain. Left without a choice, Yi Chen clashed with the chain a few more times. Each time, his blood and qi boiled, and he rapidly retreated. Chapter 777. Die. White Nightmare and Hei Lin had the highest cultivation base. The 2 waved the black chains in their hands, and like 2 dragons emerging from the sea, they attacked Yi Chen from the left and right. The frightening pressure brought by the 6-way cloud pollution froze the space around Yi Chen, making it hard for him to dodge. At this moment, Yi Chen couldn't afford to hold back anymore. He shot out 4 void-shattering fingers, each striking the 2 chains. Space immediately warped. Although the 6-way cloud pollution was powerful, its trajectory was warped by the void-shattering fingers, and it slid to the side. Space profound. Hei Lin's pupils shrank. His space profound has become much more powerful. Duo Long was the only one who had seen Yi Chen's void-shattering fingers. He could tell that Yi Chen's void-shattering fingers had become even more powerful. It could even warp the 6-way cloud pollution's trajectory. Yi Chen's figure shot backward. Not daring to waste a single second, he took out 2 upper supreme grade pellets from his storage ring, swallowing one and hiding the other in his mouth. This pellet was a semi-supreme grade pellet given to him by Dragon God Celestial Palace. Not only could it rapidly recover Zhen Yuan, it had no side effects. Unfortunately, there was only 1 bottle, and every time he used one, it would be 1 less. The pellet melted in his mouth like a clear spring, flowing through his limbs and bones while recovering Yi Chen's withered Zhenyuan. Let's attack together. Use the six-way array. He has a semi-supreme grade pellet for recovering Zhenyuan. Seeing Yi Chen's Zhenyuan rising again, the blue-skinned demonic human's expression changed as he yelled at the other five. We actually have to use the six-way array to kill him. Even if this kid dies, he should be proud. Yi Chen's toughness caused the six expressions to turn grave. The six-way cloud polishing rope was an artifact passed down in the demonic human race. It could be divided into 6 parts, and the 6 parts could also combine into one, forming a pseudo-extreme grade artifact. Corresponding to this artifact was a 6-way array. The 6-way array combined with the 6-way cloud polishing rope could not only trap the enemy, but also exhaust them, ultimately killing them. It was originally meant to deal with strongest half-step kings. Who would have thought that it would be used on a peak C of Soul Realm cultivator like Yi Chen? The 6 of them had also consumed a lot of Zhenyuan. Using the 6-way array required a lot of Zhenyuan. The 6 of them swallowed down a medicinal pill at the same time, trying their best to restore their Zhenyuan. 6-way formation, seal heaven and earth. The thin chains attached to the chains were extremely long. The 6 separated and surrounded Yi Chen in the middle, forming a 6-way array. As soon as the array was formed, a boundless and frightening black chi flowed along the chains and shot out from the 6 bodies, forming 6 black chi pillars. The chi pillars connected with each other and formed a thin black membrane, sealing Yi Chen within. Inside the 6-way array, Yi Chen could no longer see the scene on the island. Raising his head, he could only see black chi surging everywhere. What a mysterious array! Yi Chen's Zhenyuan had already recovered 80%, so he didn't have to worry about running out of Zhenyuan for the time being. However, the situation before him didn't allow him to be optimistic. Huff. In the void, black chi surged. All of a sudden, a chain shrouded in black chi appeared out of nowhere and attacked Yi Chen with an unstoppable momentum. Yi Chen didn't dare to face it head-on. Using the void-shattering finger's power, he twisted the chain's attack trajectory. However, in the next moment, another 5 chains appeared out of nowhere. Since he couldn't see the source of the chains, Yi Chen's reaction was a bit slower. He couldn't change the trajectory of the 5 chains at the same time like before. Only 3 of them could be twisted, while the remaining 2 were like evil dragons baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Sword light flight art. Forming the sword wings on his back, Yi Chen's body flashed once, barely dodging the last 2 chains, brushing past his body. Huff. The second wave of attacks followed. 6 chains danced in the air, forming an inescapable net. Meanwhile, Yi Chen felt like he was walking on a tightrope. He could be hit by the chains at any moment and fall from the tightrope, smashing his body into pieces. This won't do. Do I have to use the Sky Scorpio sword? Inside the 6-way array, Yi Chen was already at a disadvantage. He would be defeated and killed sooner or later. At this moment, apart from the Sky Scorpio sword, there was nothing else that could help Yi Chen break the 6-way array and escape. However, using the Sky Scorpio sword was no small matter. The Sky Scorpio sword was the sword of the Sky Scorpio King under Emperor 4 Extreme. It contained one of the 10 great miraculous metals, the purple crystal iron. When activated by the sword chi, it could instantly crystallize and shatter anything it came into contact with. However, with Yi Chen's Zhenyuan, he could only use the Sky Scorpio sword once. After that, his Zhenyuan would be completely drained. Although he had the Dragon God Medal, which stored 30% of his Zhenyuan, and could be replenished at any time, as well as half a bottle of upper clear pellets, which could also allow his Zhenyuan to recover very quickly. However, one mustn't forget that there were still 500 C of Soul Realm demonic humans outside. Even if he destroyed the 6-way array and killed 6 half-step demonic human kings, he would still have to face the joint attack of 500 C of Soul Realm demonic humans. The joint attack of 500 C of Soul Realm demonic humans was absolutely destructive. Not to mention him, even a strongest half-step king would perish. Putting aside all these, once the Sky Scorpio sword appeared, Yi Chen would have to silence everyone who saw it, because it was too precious. After these demonic humans returned, they would certainly report the news to their demonic human kings. At that time, the ones chasing after him would not be Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans or half-step demonic human kings, but genuine demonic human kings. With his strength, even with the Sky Scorpio sword, facing a demonic human king would only lead to death. Could he exterminate all the demonic humans here? Clearly not. The biggest possibility was that after killing 6 half-step demonic human kings, he would be killed by 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans. This possibility was 90%. Whatever, it's not the time of life and death yet. If that moment comes, even if I die, I'll use the Sky Scorpio sword. Being overcautious was not Yi Chen's style, but he couldn't be too impulsive either. Yi Chen decided to wait until Murong Qingcheng broke through to half-step demonic human king realm. Then, they would attack the 6-way array together and open a passage in the enchantment, leaving this place. Murong, you have to hurry. Yi Chen felt that he wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. In Murong Qingcheng's seclusion cave, waves of powerful demon power spread out. Murong Qingcheng, who was at the source of the ripples, was dripping wet one moment and then dry the next. A thick white mist seemed to pour out from the top of her head. Her face was extremely dry, and her lips had already cracked open, with many wrinkles appearing on them. Her hair had gradually turned from black to yellow, without a trace of luster. However, at this moment, an even more vast demonic power fluctuation spread out. The mountain where the cave was located trembled, and a dazzling black radiance shot out from the cracks on the mountain's surface. The entire mountain looked like a huge hedgehog, with black radiance like swords. Ha! A crisp roar pierced through the sky. Murong Qingcheng suddenly opened her eyes, which were unfathomable and incomparably sharp. The long hair on her head danced like black flames. Puff! White mist spread out in all directions. Murong Qingcheng opened her hands, and her body bent into a bow shape. The water chi of heaven and earth gathered with her as the center, fusing into her body and nourishing her withered body. One could see with naked eyes that Murong Qingcheng's long hair turned black and supple, carrying a trace of black light. The skin on her face returned to its original white and supple state, without a trace of blemish. It was like a boiled egg that had just been peeled off. The dead skin on her lips fell off automatically, revealing her moist and supple skin. She has broken through. Don't waste time. Kill this kid as soon as possible. He Lin had a bad premonition as he yelled. At the same time, he sent a Zhen Yuan transmission to his 500 clansmen, telling them to stop Murong Qingcheng and not let her come over and destroy the 6-way formation. Within the 6-way formation, the frequency of the chain's attacks became higher and higher. It had long since reached the point of being dazzling and indistinguishable. If not for Yi Chen's pseudo-extreme grade armor, Dragon God Medal, Upper Clear Pellet, and Void-Shattering Finger, he would have long since been killed. In fact, although Yi Chen's strength couldn't compare to the strongest half-step kings, his survivability was still above them. The strongest half-step kings were stronger than Yi Chen in terms of offense and Jin Yuan. However, in terms of reaction, defense, and technique, they might not necessarily be able to surpass Yi Chen. This was also the biggest reason why Yi Chen could last until now. The chain's attack frequency suddenly increased, and the pressure on Yi Chen instantly increased tenfold. Ding, ding, ding. However, what left White Nightmare and the rest in disbelief was that Yi Chen had once again used a space profound sword art. This sword art had many loopholes, and it hadn't been fused with the space profound, so its might wasn't that formidable. However, it still contained the space profound. The instant it clashed with the chains, it could twist the chain's trajectory, allowing it to counter 1,000 catties with little effort. Why is this kid so troublesome? Duo Long almost cursed out loud. Go to hell. The 6 mustered their Zhen Yuan and brandished the chain with all their might, crazily attacking Yi Chen. The frequency once again doubled, and the Zhen Yuan within their bodies flowed like water. Puff. It was difficult for 2 fists to contend against 4 hands. Yi Chen's space profound sword art was still imperfect, and it was hard for him to resist such a high frequency of attacks. After being whipped several times by the chain, his protective Jin Yuan, which had been amplified by the bronze armor, dimmed a bit. A tyrannical power passed through the protective Jin Yuan and struck Yi Chen's body. Even though the power was weakened, it still caused him to spurt out a mouthful of blood. Only now could Murong Qingcheng freely control the demonic power within her body. She turned her head and saw the 6 half-step kings forming the 6-way array. The array was pitch black, and nothing could be seen. However, as long as one wasn't an idiot, they would know that the person inside was Yi Chen. Stop him. 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans blocked in front of Murong Qingcheng. Their weapons and gloves flickered with all kinds of lights. As long as their leader gave the order, they would attack together. Murong Qingcheng coldly smiled. With a pang, a pair of huge black wings unfolded from her back. Black chi surged on the wings like black flames. With a fierce flap of the wings, Murong Qingcheng's body instantly disappeared and reappeared behind the 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans. So fast. The Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans were dumbstruck. They couldn't even keep up with such speed. How could they fight? A perfect half-step king was too frightening, especially one with innate speed. Chapter 778. The Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans could only look on blankly as Murong Qingcheng flew toward Yi Chen. At this moment, they didn't dare to attack, because whether it was the enemy or the 6 half-step kings leading them, they would all be within their range of attack. She's coming. Activate the 6-way array. As long as we have a bit more time, we'll be able to kill this kid. White Nightmare and the rest were paying attention to Murong Qingcheng. Seeing that the 500 clansmen couldn't stop her, their complexions changed. Each of them swallowed a Jin Yuan replenishing pellet and activated the 6-way cloud palation with all their strength. The black chi of the 6-way cloud palation roiled, and the 6 thin chains connected to it were activated. A second membrane appeared around the 6, putting them in between the 2 layers. Seeing this, Murong Qingcheng's right hand turned into a blade and chopped down. Peng! The membrane around the 6 crazily distorted, causing their complexions to turn pale. Hey! It can't be broken. Murong Qingcheng's brows creased. Midway, her hands rapidly formed seals. Due to her fast speed, it seemed as if her hands were shrouded in an illusory sphere. At the same time, boundless dark power rippled out from her body. Dark Devour. After forming seals, Murong Qingcheng pushed her hands forward. Rumble. On the outer wall of the membrane, a dark energy ball that was constantly collapsing and rotating appeared. This dark energy ball was like a black hole, emitting an astonishing suction force that was distorting the membrane around the 6 of them. Under this terrifying suction force, the membrane became unstable, expanding and contracting at times, as if it could collapse at any time. Don't even think about it. The 6 roared and poured their Jin Yuan into the 6-way cloud palation like water, stabilizing the membrane. Murong Qingcheng coldly snorted and formed seals again, condensing a second dark energy sphere. Under the pincer attack of 2 dark energy spheres, the membrane finally couldn't endure and loudly collapsed. Puff! With the outer array broken, the 6 spurted blood, their Jin Yuan fluctuating. Break! Taking advantage of this opportunity, Murong Qingcheng struck toward Duo Long, who was the closest to her. As long as one of the 6 was injured or became uncoordinated, the 6-way cloud palation would collapse. Damn it! As a last resort, Duo Long couldn't afford to attack Yi Chen anymore. He moved his body horizontally, avoiding Murong Qingcheng's incoming palm energy. As his body moved, a flaw appeared in the 6-direction formation, and a gap appeared. With a swoosh, a sword light flashed, and Yi Chen rushed out of the gap. Fortunately, you broke through in time. Yi Chen was in a sorry state. There were many tears on his clothes, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Fortunately, this was only his appearance. With the undying body, these injuries were nothing to Yi Chen. Of course, if Murong Qingcheng had come a little later, the situation would have been even worse. Why didn't you interrupt me? Seeing the 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans and 6 half-step kings, Murong Qingcheng sucked in a breath of cold air. She was somewhat blaming him. Facing so many enemies, Yi Chen should have interrupted her breakthrough and left together instead of risking his life to buy time for her. It's fine. You still don't believe me? Moreover, it's not like I don't have a trump card. I just can't use it casually. Yi Chen was talking about the Sky Scorpio sword. If I had broken through a little later, even if you had the Sky Scorpio sword, you might not have been safe. Murong Qingcheng sized up the 6 half-step kings, then turned her head to glance at the 500C of Soul Realm demonic humans. She was speechless. This kind of lineup was not a joke. Let's go out first. I should be able to open a gap in this enchantment. Murong Qingcheng's breakthrough allowed Yi Chen to heave a sigh of relief. Stalling for time was correct. Things were progressing in a good direction, and the only thing he had to face now was the enchantment. Want to leave? It won't be that easy. White Nightmare and the other 5 were attracted by Murong Qingcheng's temperament. Compared to Murong Qingcheng, even the perfect demonic human bloodline of Chaotic Demon Ocean Clan was far inferior to Murong Qingcheng. She seemed to be the most perfect, without a single flaw. Since they had encountered such a perfect demonic human bloodline, they had no reason to let her go. Therefore, they had to capture her. Miss, you and I are both part of the demonic human clan, and you have the perfect demonic human bloodline. As long as you come back with us, I can guarantee that our demonic human clan will worship you as the saintess. This is much better than wandering the world with him. I believe you will make the right choice. Duo Long said patiently. Murong Qingcheng said, I have my own clan. I don't need to join the Chaotic Demon Ocean Clan. If I'm not wrong, you should be from True Spirit Continent's demonic human clan. They're too weak, and they're harming the dignity of my demonic human clan. Moreover, it's not just you. In the future, True Spirit Continent's demonic human clan will also join my Chaotic Demon Ocean. Duo Long revealed a faint smile. Then we'll talk about it later. As she spoke, Murong Qingcheng silently held Yi Chen's palm, secretly accumulating demonic power. Yi Chen's heart shook as he understood Murong Qingcheng's plan. I'm afraid it won't be good in the future. Why don't you come to my clan as guests? As long as the two returned to their territory, they would have the final say. Let's go. Murong Qingcheng spoke halfway when the wings on her back fiercely flapped. A black halo emitted from her body as she brought Yi Chen toward the enchantment at the edge of the island. Her speed was so fast that only a black light could be seen. It was no different from teleportation. Damn it! Stop her. The 6 had long since been on guard against Murong Qingcheng and Yi Chen's escape. The moment the two disappeared, they brandished their chains and lashed at the two. The 6-way cloud palation was, after all, a pseudo-supreme grade artifact. Once activated, its speed was inconceivably fast. Unfortunately, Murong Qingcheng's speed was not much slower than the 6-way cloud palation. Adding on the fact that she was a step ahead, there was still a certain distance between them. No matter how much the 6-way cloud palation urged, it could only gradually close the distance. The island was not small, but it was not big either. Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng soon arrived before the enchantment, with the 6-way cloud palation still chasing after them. Void-shattering finger. Yi Chen urged the space profound and stabbed at the enchantment in front of him. The enchantment was infused with the power of space, and was hard to see with the naked eye. However, under the attack of the void-shattering finger, it instantly distorted and bulged outwards. Pop! A spiraling passage appeared before the two. The walls of the passage looked like glass shards, a sign of the solidification of space power. Let's go. With no time to lose, the two rushed toward the spiraling passage. How is this possible? He actually broke the enchantment. The 6 turned pale with fright. The hidden fog enchantment was a rare enchantment of demonic humans. Although they knew that Yi Chen knew the space profound, with his cultivation base and realm, it would be hard for him to break it. However, the scene before them clearly told them that Yi Chen had the ability to break the enchantment. It was truly beyond their expectations. Yi Chen's ability to break the enchantment was naturally not purely relying on the space profound. He also had the soul eye, which granted him the ability to instantly see through the imperfections of the enchantment. After all, not everyone outside was proficient in using the enchantment. Relying on this ability, he dared to say that he had a certain amount of confidence in breaking the enchantment. And now, he had succeeded. Without the sixth command, the 500 sea of Soul Realm demonic humans had already started attacking the moment Murong Qingcheng and Yi Chen escaped. Therefore, the instant the two entered the passage, hundreds of attacks rained down on them. Sure. Unfortunately, the two were a step faster and entered the spiraling passage first. Bang! 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 The attacks landed on the enchantment barrier and the spiraling passage, producing a series of loud explosions. The passage rapidly collapsed and chased after Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng. Open the enchantment, quickly. Duo Long transmitted his voice to the demonic humans outside through a special method. Although the Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans outside didn't know what was happening inside, they could feel the enchantment shaking. Someone had forcefully broken the enchantment and was about to come out. Therefore, with Duo Long's command, they immediately stopped operating the enchantment and dispersed their Jin Yuan. Pa. Layers of black mist scattered, and a gale blew in from the ocean outside the island. The entire island was suddenly exposed to the heaven and earth, looking extremely mysterious. The enchantment disappeared. Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng felt the pressure lighten. Looking back, the island returned to its original appearance, without any barrier. Forget about it. Let's leave this place first. Without the enchantment, Murong Qingcheng's speed sharply increased once again. With a flap of the black wings on her back, she brought Yi Chen away like a black ray of light. After traveling for several dozen li, Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng suddenly felt a frightening crisis approaching. Looking back, the two's expressions instantly changed. In his line of sight, a gigantic black chain that was several meters thick and immeasurably long rushed over. Wherever it went, the seawater was plowed open, the clouds in the sky were shattered, and some small islands suddenly collapsed, turning into dust. The might of this chain was terrifying to the point of being a complete mess. And the source of the chain was in White Nightmare's hands. Unknowingly, the six-way cloud pollution had reassembled into a single chain. Holding the six-way cloud pollution chain in its other form, White Nightmare circulated his Jin Yuan with all his might and lashed out with the chain. As the chain lashed out, it automatically enlarged and lengthened, resulting in the scene just now. This is the true power of the pseudo-extreme grade artifact, the six-way cloud polishing rope. Its previous form could be used in conjunction with arrays, but its might was spread out. Its offensive power was only several times that of a half-step extreme grade artifact, not reaching the standard of a pseudo-extreme grade artifact. Only then did Yi Chen understand how frightening the six-way cloud pollution chain was, and how frightening a pseudo-extreme grade artifact was. The bronze armor and six-way cloud pollution chain were of similar grade, but his cultivation base was only at peak late Sea of Soul Realm. Being able to resist the six-way cloud pollution chain made him feel somewhat strange. Rumble. The six-way cloud pollution chain's might was unparalleled as it swept toward the two with unstoppable momentum. Waning Moon, Demonic Finger. Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng turned around and used their strongest moves, attacking the chain. Chapter 779. The black crescent-shaped sword power contained the profoundness of metal and water. It was sharp and tenacious at the same time, and had great potential. When the sword was swung out, it seemed like the void was about to be cut open. Before it collided with the chains, the sharp sword power had already counterattacked. The black finger energy was Murong Qingcheng's innate skill, Demonic Finger. Using Murong Qingcheng's perfect half-step demonic king strength, its might was 10 times greater than before. The finger shot out, dragging a heart-palpitating black luster behind it, as if it was a resplendent black diamond. Dong. The crescent-shaped sword energy and the black finger energy collided with the chain, creating a shockwave that swept out in all directions. The island below exploded with a bang, and the surrounding 100 li of seawater caved in by several thousand meters. A huge black hole also appeared in the sky. This was the sign of stunning sky being torn apart by the shockwave. The might of the exchange between the two sides had already faintly surpassed the peak confrontation of two strongest half-step kings. The shockwave not only destroyed everything in the vicinity, but also sent Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng flying with blood flowing from the corners of their mouths. White Nightmare also spurted out blood. Yi Chen's waning moon and Murong Qingcheng's demonic finger were enough to deal with one of them, but two of them were beyond his power. Moreover, the six-way cloud scraping rope was not an ordinary pseudo-supreme grade artifact, and its Jin Yuan requirement was enormous. Thus, White Nightmare's Jin Yuan, which wasn't much to begin with, made him incomparably weak. His injuries seemed even more severe than those of Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng. You didn't stop them? Beside him, He Lin's face was gloomy. Murong Qingcheng's speed was astonishing, and the distance between them was close to 100 li. Even if they chased, they wouldn't be able to catch up. White Nightmare rigidly stared at the two in the distance and said, "Worthy of being a perfect half-step demonic human king. As soon as she entered this realm, her strength is already close to a strongest half-step king. Given some time, it won't be hard for her to become a strongest half-step king." On the side, Duo Long smiled bitterly and said, "There's also that kid. His cultivation base is not high, but the profound sense martial skill he comprehended is incomparably profound, allowing him to display 10 times his strength. Fortunately, he hasn't become a half-step king. Otherwise, the ones running away wouldn't be them, but us. Although we didn't catch them, it's not like we didn't gain anything. Since we found the whereabouts of perfect half-step demonic human kings, the patriarchs will reward us with some Zhen Yuan crystals and supreme-grade spirit stones. It's better than returning empty-handed." The blue-skinned humanoid comforted himself. After flying for tens of thousands of miles in a single breath, Murong Qingcheng and Yi Chen finally slowed down a little, maintaining their normal speed. A pseudo-supreme grade artifact really can't be underestimated. That demonic human strength was lower than ours, but he could display a might surpassing ours. Trivial injuries were nothing to the two. Yi Chen had the undying body and instantly recovered. On the other hand, Murong Qingcheng had a perfect demonic human bloodline, and her fourth-step demonic body was no small matter. Although her recovery speed was inferior to Yi Chen's, she had long since recovered. At this moment, Yi Chen sighed. Murong Qingcheng said, "This chain should be a peak existence among pseudo-supreme grade artifact." Pseudo-supreme grade artifacts were usually replicas of supreme grade artifacts, and their might could hardly reach even half of an extreme grade artifact's might. Pseudo-supreme grade artifacts were inferior to pseudo-supreme grade artifacts, but it was not to say that pseudo-supreme grade artifacts were necessarily inferior to pseudo-supreme grade artifacts. Some extremely powerful pseudo-supreme grade artifacts were not inferior to pseudo-supreme grade artifacts at all. However, this six-way cloud pollution chain's might was simply too powerful, and it had many transformations. Even with the two of them joining hands, they could only slightly suppress it, and suffered some minor injuries. If it were the other two, they would have been smashed into meat paste by the chain. The demonic humans are the rulers of chaotic demonic ocean, and their hands and eyes are everywhere. It seems like we can't stay here any longer. We have to leave as soon as possible. They had hidden themselves well enough, and were more than 1,000,000 li away from the scene of the incident. But they had still been discovered. It was easy to see how terrifying the demonic humans' control over chaotic demonic ocean was. It would be very difficult to escape their pursuit. The two no longer hesitated, choosing a direction and flying at a normal speed. After the two escaped, White Nightmare's group of 6 didn't linger on the island any longer. They immediately set off, returning to the demonic humans' headquarters. They wanted to report the discovery of the perfect demonic human bloodline and let the higher-ups make a decision. On the way back, the black-robed old man of the demonic human clan was also hurrying. His figure flashed through the void, and his speed was unimaginable. A moment ago, he was still 100,000 li away, but the next moment, he was right in front of them. With the appearance of the black chi, the old man stopped as usual and began to investigate. The old man closed his eyes, and an incorporeal soul power spread out in all directions, covering a radius of several tens of thousands li. Seeing that there was nothing strange within several tens of thousands li, the old man formed a seal with both hands and let out a low roar. The evenly spread out soul power spread out, and the area it covered expanded by several times, reaching a radius of 200,000 li. The old man opened his eyes, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Puff! The black chi dissipated, and the old man disappeared. White Nightmare's group of 6 quickly led the 600 clansmen. Suddenly, a black chi appeared in the sky before them, and a black-robed old man walked out. Ancestor! White Nightmare and the rest were shocked, and one after another, they bowed in respect. The 500 clansmen behind them directly knelt in the void, not daring to raise their heads. The black-robed old man was none other than one of the demonic human kings of the demonic human clan. Demonic human kings were extremely revered existences no matter where they were. In the demonic human clan, they were called ancestor. This black-robed old man was extremely old, at least several hundred years old. Thus, he was worthy of being called ancestor. All of you, rise. The black-robed old man said expressionlessly. Yes. White Nightmare and the 500 clansmen rose one after another. From your appearance, you seem to have fought with someone? The black-robed old man asked. The fat demonic human duo Long said, Ancestor, we've already found the culprit, but we were useless. He escaped again. The 6 of you together with the 6-way cloud polishing rope and 600 clansmen still couldn't catch him. Could he be a strongest half-step king? The black-robed old man's face sank. Beside him, Black Scales explained, Ancestor, he's not a strongest half-step king, but he has grasped an extremely profound space profound, able to distort the 6-way cloud polishing rope's attack trajectory. Moreover, his strength is also close to a strongest half-step king. His sword arts are unpredictable and hard to deal with. Oh, grasping space profound. This is not surprising. Space profound is one of the strongest profounds, and has many wondrous uses. It can't be calculated with common sense. It's understandable that you couldn't catch him. But from your expressions, I'm afraid that's not the main reason. The black-robed old man observed their expressions and asked back. Ancestor is wise. Duo Long cupped his hands and said, he was able to escape because he had a companion, and that companion's identity is no small matter. He has perfect demonic human bloodline and has already advanced to half-step king realm, possessing innate speed abilities. Perfect demonic human bloodline? Speak quickly. The black-robed old man's complexion suddenly changed, no longer maintaining his calm demeanor. Duo Long didn't dare to keep the old man in suspense and said, according to our conjecture, she should be from True Spirit Continent. When we talked to her, she didn't deny it either. I'm thinking that our chaotic demonic ocean lineage should migrate people from True Spirit Continent to strengthen our clan. The black-robed old man glared at Duo Long. Don't ask about matters that don't concern you. Yes. Duo Long was startled and immediately lowered his head. True Spirit Continent is not a good place. There are as many kings as there are clouds in the sky, far more than any other place. If our chaotic demonic ocean lineage wants to subdue the True Spirit Continent's demonic human clan, we have to think long and hard. We can't be too hasty, lest we bring disaster upon ourselves. Although the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan seemed to be much more powerful than any power on True Spirit Continent, True Spirit Continent was not as simple as it looked. True Spirit Continent was known as the Land of 100 Kings, and the number of life and death kings had never been less than 100. And this was only the human side. Adding the demonic beasts and other races, there were even more life and death kings. If one recklessly charged in, even the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan would not be able to escape unscathed. Otherwise, they would have long since forced the entire True Spirit Continent to migrate. All right, you go back and report this matter. I'll chase after them. The black-robed old man attached great importance to this matter. He wished he could immediately chase after that perfect demonic human bloodline. Unfortunately, 2 days had already passed, and the other party had already fled several million li away. With his ability, he couldn't find them in a short time. Yes. Duo Long, White Nightmare, and the other 5 immediately left with 600 clansmen. Perfect demonic human bloodline, hey. The black-robed old man coldly smiled and his body turned into black chi, disappearing like a bubble. Chaotic demonic ocean occupied several million li. 5 days later, Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng left chaotic demonic ocean and arrived at the ocean outside. The two didn't continue on their way, but instead found a secluded island as a temporary resting place. Because Murong Qingcheng had just entered the half-step king realm, she didn't have the time to consolidate her cultivation base and familiarize herself with her abilities. She could use this opportunity to consolidate her foundation. Moreover, with demonic power crystals, she could continue to strengthen her Zhen Yuan after consolidating her cultivation base. As for Yi Chen, although he had no hope of entering the half-step king realm for the time being, his Space Profound had already reached 40% completion, and his Space Profound sword art had also taken shape. As long as he had the time, creating a Space Profound sword art wouldn't be too difficult. Once the Space Profound was formed, Yi Chen's battle strength would naturally soar, and he would be able to contend against strongest half-step kings. Moreover, the Space Profound had many uses, and Yi Chen only knew a few of them. But, just this little bit was enough to benefit him immensely, allowing him to contend against 6 half-step demonic human kings. If not for the Space Profound, he would have been defeated long ago. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, a week had passed. Break. In a mountain range in the center of the island, Yi Chen held the Thunder Disaster Sword in his hand and waved it out. The mountain in front of him twisted instantly before shattering like a mirror. Space Profound is indeed formidable. This sword art of mine can't be considered complete, but its might is already not inferior to Waning Moon. Moreover, it's even more difficult to guard against. As long as one is enveloped by the sword aura, it'll be like a mirror, hard to dodge. If one's strength is slightly weaker, they'll be shattered into millions of pieces. Yi Chen himself was astonished by the sword art's destructive power. What a powerful human! It's better to retreat. There were many oceanic beasts in the deep ocean. The sudden appearance of 2 humans on the island had already attracted the attention of many powerful oceanic beasts. The oceanic beast that had retreated a moment ago was a half-step demonic beast king not inferior to a human half-step king. Seeing Yi Chen's sword art so powerful, how could it dare to have any devious thoughts? It immediately retreated. Chapter 780. Yi Chen smiled faintly and didn't mind it too much. Although the opponent's concealment skill was very high, being able to merge with the sea water, it still couldn't escape his soul power's detection. The reason why he didn't make things difficult for him was because he was in the deep sea, the territory of the sea beasts. It was best not to cause any trouble. This sword move has already reached 60 to 70% completion. I can give it a name now. Thinking back to the scene just now, Yi Chen mumbled to himself, let's call it Bewitching Mirror Shattering. When the sword was waved out, the mountain seemed to be reflected in a mirror and then shattered, giving people a very illusory feeling. Therefore, the first 2 words were very suitable, as it was both poetic and dreamy. The second 2 words, shattering, brought people back to the cruel atmosphere. No matter how beautiful the bewitching mirror was, it would still shatter one day. Swords were originally used for killing, and sword moves were also created for killing. Bewitching mirror shattering. Bewitching mirror shattering. Yi Chen repeated it twice and suddenly smiled. The Space Profound has many wondrous uses. This move is just one of the uses of the Space Profound. Next, I will create the second and third moves, and the Space Profound sword art will also become one of my strongest sword arts. The theory of bewitching mirror shattering was not hard. It was to spread out the space power under the urging of the sword chi. Once the space power locked onto the target, it would suddenly condense and freeze the opponent. Then, under the effect of the sword chi, it would shatter along with the opponent. The theory was not hard, but the execution was not so simple. First, the Space Profound had to be very profound, and then, it had to be closely integrated with the sword art. Otherwise, the opponent would be able to find an opening and escape, and the move would be broken. Another 2 weeks passed, and Yi Chen's mastery of bewitching mirror shattering was getting better and better. It had also reached 70% completion from 60 to 70%. He could feel that as this move was perfected, his recently stagnant Space Profound was steadily improving. With the improvement of the Space Profound, His mastery of bewitching mirror shattering was getting better and better. The two complemented each other, and the improvement of the move was even faster. Rumble. On this day, a mountain peak in the west of the mountain range started to shake, and an extremely powerful demonic ripple spread out in all directions. Murong is coming out of seclusion. Yi Chen looked over. Murong Qingcheng had consolidated her cultivation a week ago. In the following week, she had been using the demonic crystals to increase her demonic power. The demonic crystals were worthy of being called demonic crystals. In just a week, her cultivation had doubled. The demonic power fluctuations she emitted were much stronger than when she had just advanced to the half-step demonic king realm. Even the space around her was trembling. Stretching out her right hand, Murong Qingcheng gently pushed forward. Puff! Powerful demonic energy gushed out, piercing through the mountain wall that was hundreds of meters thick. It was no harder than tofu. In a flash, Murong Qingcheng turned into a black rainbow and flew out of the mountain peak. It looks like your cultivation has doubled. Yi Chen walked over and speculated based on the demonic aura emitted by Murong Qingcheng. Murong Qingcheng said, originally, it was impossible to double my cultivation in a week. However, after I advanced to the half-step demonic king realm, the remnant demonic power essence in my body started to dilute and merge with my demonic power. Demonic power essence is no small matter. It is your fortune to have obtained it. Recalling the past, Yi Chen couldn't help but sigh at the effect of the demonic power essence on Murong Qingcheng. Without the demonic power essence, it would have been extremely difficult for Murong Qingcheng to advance in this world where demonic qi was scarce. Others might have advanced by 2 realms, but she might not have advanced by 1 realm. It could be said that the demonic power essence made Murong Qingcheng who she was today. This demonic power essence still has its mysteries. Murong Qingcheng reached out her left hand. Amidst the flickering black light, a black crystal the size of a date seed rose up. Yi Chen said in surprise, "You can already control the demonic power essence?" "Yes, but it can't leave my body. Otherwise, it will scatter." Murong Qingcheng faintly nodded and continued, "I can feel that there is something imprinted inside. It seems to be a demon race martial art or something. In the past couple of days, some vague fragments of information have appeared in my head. In the parallel space battlefield, the demonic king has been sealed for countless years, and his demonic power has been severely depleted. Even so, the Thunder King, the Beast King, and the Shining King were almost killed by him. It is easy to see that at his peak, he had the strength of a titled monarch. It is understandable that his demonic power essence is a bit mysterious." Yi Chen looked at the remaining demonic power essence and found that it was somewhat similar to a demonic power crystal, but not completely. There were many complicated and profound patterns inside. These patterns were not inanimate objects, but were slowly moving and changing form from time to time. "My space profound sword art has reached 70 to 80% completion, and its power has surpassed waning moon. Your cultivation base has also been consolidated, and it has doubled. We can leave now." As he spoke, Yi Chen had the intention to leave. "Let's go." After staying for so many days, it was time to leave. Murong Qingcheng did not have any objections. The deep ocean was boundless, as if there was no end to it. After flying above the ocean for 7 days and 7 nights, the two crossed millions of li and arrived at a new ocean region. This ocean region was marked on the map as Rich Light Ocean Span. The reason it was called Rich Light Ocean Span was because there were many ruins here. Some of these ruins would often be explored by people, obtaining treasures that ordinary people could only dream of. As time went by, this ocean region got its name. Yi Chen spent a large amount of spirit stones to buy a map and decided to go there to try his luck. The Sky Scorpio sword in his storage ring was a huge source of Jin Yuan. Yi Chen really couldn't use it. Thunder Disaster Sword and other semi-extreme grade swords were also starting to fall behind. He needed a pseudo-extreme grade sword, or perhaps an even more powerful semi-extreme grade sword. As for Murong Qingcheng, she didn't have a pair of artifact gloves. "I heard that Rich Light Ocean Span is very prosperous, and auctions are often held there. Perhaps we won't need to explore and can obtain what we want." Murong Qingcheng smiled. I hope so. Yi Chen faintly nodded. Foursquare Island was one of the more famous islands in Richlight Ocean Span. The island was vast and towering, shaped like a square, hence the name Foursquare Island. There were many forces stationed on Foursquare Island, including human sects, demonic beast and oceanic beast forces, as well as some organizations of deviant species. In short, one could see all kinds of strange life forms here. It wouldn't be strange if one ran into them on the street, since the people here had long since become accustomed to it. With influence, there would naturally be business. The most prosperous business here was undoubtedly the auction house, followed by miscellaneous goods stores, material stores, restaurants, and so on. Due to Richlight Oceanspan's peculiarity, many experts from the surrounding ocean span would come here from time to try their luck. As a result, the experts here were like cabbages. Sea of Soul Realm experts were as numerous as dogs, and half-step kings could be found everywhere. Experts were not very valuable here, but they were also very valuable. Above the ocean near Foursquare Island, numerous figures stood in the sky. Dozens of li away from these figures, two figures were engaged in an intense battle. The flames of battle soared into the sky, and the multicolored chi even eclipsed the blazing sun in the sky. Bastard, eat my fist. One was a golden-haired youngster, and the other was a red-faced man with a wide mouth and a square face. The two fiercely fought, and their chi raised several 100 meters tall waves. Amidst the intense battle, the golden-haired youngster roared and stomped on the waves, punching toward the red-faced man in the sky. This fist didn't contain Jin Yuan, but an incomparably dense demonic power. The demonic power was golden in color and incomparably resplendent. Little bastard, your grandpa will skin you alive. The red-faced man wasn't someone to be trifled with. Raising the blade in his hand, he rapidly spun down. The snow-white blade light was like a tornado, devouring the golden fist power and then devouring the golden-haired youngster. The fierceness of the blade aura was frightening. There are so many experts here. 10 to 20% of the spectators are half-step kings. Amidst the crowd, two figures, one male and one female, had appeared out of nowhere. They were Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng. Yi Chen glanced around and exclaimed. Murong Qingcheng was attracted by the battle and said, that golden-haired youngster should be a half-step demonic beast king. I wonder what kind of demonic beast he is. Young miss must be a newcomer. You don't even know the young master of the Golden Lion clan, Xiaobao. Beside her, a handsome youngster in luxurious clothes was attracted by Murong Qingcheng's clear and melodious voice. He couldn't help but turn his head and see that the speaker was a peerless beauty. His eyes couldn't help but brighten as he said, Golden Lion clan? Murong Qingcheng had never heard of it. Yi Chen, on the other hand, had heard of it. The Golden Lion clan should be one of the 100 beasts. They have boundless strength, and the demonic power they cultivate is called Golden Demonic Power. Among the 100 beasts, they are ranked at the top. In the ancient era, it was said that there were more than 100 kinds of peak aptitude demonic beasts. These demonic beasts were classified as 100 beasts, and the Golden Lion clan was one of them. Some of the ancestors of the half-beast clans were also part of the 100 beasts, such as Nine-Headed Snake, Sky Tiger, Blue-Eyed White Wolf, and Yang Feng Feng. Moreover, they were ranked even higher than the Golden Lion clan. After all, the Blue Luan was a descendant of the Phoenix. Hey, you seem to know quite a bit. The well-dressed youngster sized up Yi Chen. Seeing that Yi Chen was merely at the peak of late Sea of Soul Realm, he couldn't help but reveal a disdainful expression, thinking that he was merely Murong Qingcheng's follower. How could a follower have the qualifications to butt in? Clearing his throat, he no longer looked at Yi Chen and said to Murong Qingcheng, Xiaobao is a rare genius of the Golden Lion clan. His battle strength is extremely frightening. Even if I were to face him, I wouldn't have much of a chance of victory. As for this red-faced man, he is called Hong Aokuan. Because of a quarrel, the two have turned into a big battle. From the looks of it, they won't stop until one of them is dead. Rumble. As the well-dressed youngster spoke, the battle between Xiaobao and Hong Aokuan reached its climax. Roar. A muffled thunderous roar resounded as Xiaoxiao suddenly transformed into his true form, turning into a 30-meter-tall golden lion. This golden lion had 4 pillar-like limbs, sharp claws, and a golden mane that shone resplendently as if forged from gold. Amidst his roar, a golden light radiated in all directions as he suddenly leaped up, appearing above Hong Aokuan and stomping down. Hong Aokuan's battle strength was more or less the same as Xiaoxiao's in human form. At this moment, Xiaoxiao had reverted to his true form, so how could he be his opponent? He was stomped down, his whole body bathed in blood. Xiaoxiao was a savage by nature. After stomping down on Hong Aokuan, his huge head swooped down and fiercely bit down on Hong Aokuan's body. Poochie. Hong Aokuan's body was torn in two at the waist. Blood spurted out as he died on the spot. Roar. Spitting out the corpse, Xiaoxiao faced the sky and roared. A domineering aura erupted, intimidating many people. Chapter 781. He is indeed worthy of being a rare genius of the Golden Lion race. Once he regains his true form, his strength will increase by several folds. Hong Aokuan can be considered a powerful half-step king, but he was actually bitten in two. Everyone was already used to the tragic death of a half-step king. In Richlight oceanography, experts died every day. They were happy to watch the show. This is already the second half-step king Xiaoxiao has killed in this month. TSK, this golden lion is indeed brave and fierce. The luxuriously dressed youth said arrogantly with battle intent rising in his heart. Let's go. The battle had already ended, and Golden Lion Xiaoxiao had the last laugh. Yi Chen also gained a new understanding of this peak high-grade demonic beast. En. Murong Qingcheng followed behind Yi Chen. What's going on? A lackey actually wants the master to follow him? The luxuriously dressed youth was displeased, but he couldn't say anything. After all, even Murong Qingcheng didn't object, so why should he? Miss, this one is Lin Yuxuan. Remember me. The luxuriously dressed youth Lin Yuxuan sent a Jin Yuan transmission to Murong Qingcheng. Murong Qingcheng paused for a moment, but didn't say anything. She followed behind Yi Chen, flying toward the nearby Foursquare Island. The top of Foursquare Island was very flat, and a huge city was situated on it, spanning several dozen li in both length and width. Landing on a long street, Yi Chen casually glanced around and found a map shop. Boss, give me a map of Foursquare City. Yi Chen arrived in front of the shop counter and knocked on the counter with his finger. All right, here's your map. It's worth 10 upper-grade spirit stones. The shop owner took out a folded map from the counter drawer and placed it on the counter. 10 upper-grade spirit stones for a map of a city? Yi Chen's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. Walking out of the shop, Murong Qingcheng laughed. The people who come here are all experts with a net worth of millions. They don't care about a mere 10 upper-grade spirit stones. Every place has a price, and it varies from person to person. However, compared to other places, it's a bit too ruthless. In an ordinary city in a small country, a city map would only cost a few taels at most. Even those super cities like the Martial City would only cost a few low-grade spirit stones. Compared to this place, the difference was too big. Of course, such a high price was understandable. The people here were all almighty Sea of Soul Realm experts and half-step kings. If one were to ask for a few low-grade spirit stones, some of them would not be able to take it out. After all, everyone had only upper-grade spirit stones, and mid-grade spirit stones were rare. The map of Foursquare City was very detailed. What was on each street was clearly marked. Let's go to the material store first. Maybe I can find what I need. Breaking through to Half-Step King Realm was not without shortcuts. According to Battle King's memories, there was a kind of half-step extreme-grade spirit plant called heart-protecting flower that could protect the heart. If it could be refined into a heart-protecting pellet, the effect would be doubled. With the heart-protecting flower, Yi Chen would be able to increase the speed of his blood flow several times when breaking through to Half-Step King Realm. As long as the speed did not reach a certain level, he would not have to worry about his heart not being able to bear it. The material shop was on the 3rd street next door. This street was filled with material shops and grocery stores. Most of the things inside were not of much value, but it was possible to find priceless treasures. It depended on whether one had luck and good eyesight. Arriving at the first material store on the street, Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng walked in. "Two guests, feel free to look around. Our store's goods are guaranteed to be cheaper than other stores." The store owner greeted them warmly. Yi Chen faintly nodded. In this material store, most of the materials were of the middle grade. There were very few high-grade materials. As for the semi-supreme grade materials, they were all locked in the counters and could only be seen through the crystal. In some corners, there were some materials of unknown grade and function. Because they had been piled up there for many years, some dust had already fallen on them, making them look even more ancient. This place actually has soul stones, but there aren't many of them. On the wooden shelf on the east side, Yi Chen saw a few silver-black soul stones. He extended his soul power, but it was immediately blocked by the faint silver light outside the soul stones. Although it could not block all of them, it could still somewhat limit the soul power. Moreover, there were only a few of them. Only when there were enough of them could one's soul power be blocked. Without a doubt, these soul stones were genuine. A fist-sized soul stone would be worth about 5,000 upper-grade spirit stones on the market. These soul stones are all half the size of a fist. So, 4,000 upper-grade spirit stones would not be too much of a scam. Yi Chen sized them up, then turned around to look for something else. "Boss, do you have any more soul stones?" Right at this moment, a man walked over, picked up a soul stone from the wooden shelf, and asked the boss. Seeing that business had come, the boss smiled and said, yes, there are some in the inventory. But they are for my own use. Look at the price." The boss rubbed his hands. "Don't worry, I will take as many as you have. In addition, I will add 5% to the price." This man was wearing a white robe and had a graceful bearing. It was obvious that he was a high-level figure in a sect. Collecting soul stones was probably a sect's mission. A powerful sect must have a protective formation that could block soul power. Therefore, soul stones were quite necessary. Therefore, soul stones were generally useless for individuals. But they were very useful for a sect. "All right, follow me. Xiaofang, help me look after the store." The boss smiled and led the white-robed man into one of the rooms in the store. "Let's go and have a look at the other stores." After walking around the store, Yi Chen did not see anything good. He left the store with Murong Qingcheng and returned to the street. Next, Yi Chen visited 7 or 8 stores in a row. Finally, he found 3 heart-nourishing grass, 2 spirit-melting grass, and 1 ice-spirit flower. Heart-nourishing grass was a top-rank spirit plant. It had the same effect as the heart-protecting flower. However, the difference between the two was that the heart-protecting flower emphasized the word protect. For a certain period of time, the heart-nourishing grass had an extremely powerful protective effect. On the other hand, the heart-nourishing grass was used to nourish the heart and strengthen it. After a long time, the heart would naturally be able to withstand more pressure. The 3 heart-nourishing grass could increase Yi Chen's chances of breaking through to half-step king realm to a certain extent. But, whether he would succeed or not, Yi Chen did not know for now. As for the top-rank spirit plant, spirit-melting grass, it was an extremely special spirit plant. This kind of spirit plant could allow Jin Yuan and blood to fuse for a longer period of time. When this period of time was considerable, Yi Chen would be able to fuse his Jin Yuan with his blood and successfully enter half-step king realm without the heart-protecting flower and heart-nourishing grass. Unfortunately, 2 plants were still too little. As for the last one, the ice spirit flower was used as a precaution. When the pressure on the heart was too great and could not be reduced in a short period of time, the ice spirit flower could be swallowed to freeze the blood flow and reduce the pressure on the heart, preventing the blood from necrosis. Using these 3 spirit plants together would undoubtedly increase the success rate. But, in truth, the effect was still not as good as the heart-protecting flower. After all, although the effect of the heart-protecting flower was very short, only lasting for a week or so, it still had a very powerful protective effect on the heart during this period of time. The 3 heart-nourishing grass cost Yi Chen 800,000 top-rank spirit stones. The spirit-melting grass cost 200,000, so 2 would be 400,000. The ice spirit flower was a bit cheaper, costing 80,000 each. The total cost was 1,280,000 top-rank spirit stones, which was several times more expensive than other spirit plants of the same rank. The reason why it was so expensive was because everyone knew that it was a supplementary item for breaking through to Half-Step King Realm. Once one broke through to Half-Step King Realm, why would they care about 1 million top-rank spirit stones? Let's wait and see. The heart-nourishing grass has a nurturing process, so it won't help me break through to Half-Step King Realm in a short period of time. Once I find the heart-protecting flower, I will be able to do so soon. Yi Chen sighed. According to the map, he and Murong Qingcheng went to another street and entered one material store after another. The sun was setting in the west, and a day passed by quickly. Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng had visited almost all of the material stores in Four Square City, but couldn't find a single heart-protecting flower. However, they heard from a material store owner that a trace of a heart-protecting flower appeared in an auction half a year ago, and was sold for a high price of 5 million top-rank spirit stones. No matter where it was, the heart-protecting flower was a rare treasure. It was even rarer than some of the top-rank materials, and had a price but no market. After all, there were a lot of peak-level late sea of Soul Realm experts in 5th rank and even 4th rank sects. Once there was a heart-protecting flower, they would go crazy over it. It was impossible for it to be found in the outside world. Therefore, there were a lot of people who had heard of the heart-protecting flower, but very few who had actually seen it. After walking around with Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng also had some small gains. What she bought were all spirit plants with demonic nature. Their value was not high, and there were even some suspicions that it was a buy one get one free deal. In the Elysium, there were very few people who cultivated demonic arts, and not many people who cultivated demonic arts. After buying dozens of materials, they only spent 100,000 top-rank spirit stones, which was a free deal. After finding a restaurant with a courtyard, the two checked in. Night fell, and the cold wind whistled. Yi Chen was meditating in a special secret room in the restaurant. On the walls of the secret room, there were a few lamps, which were very bright and not dazzling. After a while, Yi Chen opened his eyes and took out 3 stalks of heart-nourishing grass from his storage ring. These 3 stalks of heart-nourishing grass had different maturity levels. The most mature one was 5,200 years old, while the least mature one was only 3,300 years old. Picking out the least mature one, Yi Chen opened his mouth and inhaled. The medicinal power inside the heart-nourishing grass turned into a sparkling bloodlight and was sent into Yi Chen's mouth. Gulp! Once the sparkling bloodlight entered his body, it immediately stuck to the surface of his beating heart. Under his inner vision, Yi Chen could see that his heart was covered with a layer of blood clothes. This blood clothes kept on wriggling, and some of the blood strands seeped into his heart, nourishing it. After about half a cup of tea's time, Yi Chen felt a chill in his heart, which was then followed by a wave of heat. The cold and heat kept on coming, and it was hard to tell whether it was the cold or the heat. In the end, Yi Chen decided to just ignore it and let the heart-nourishing grass nourish his heart. Time passed by day after day. In the blink of an eye, Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng had stayed for 3 days. In these 3 days, the 3,300 years old heart-nourishing grass had already absorbed half of its medicinal power into Yi Chen's heart. Yi Chen could clearly feel that his heart had become a lot stronger. Although its beating frequency did not change, it was more powerful than before. On this day, Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng came to a tea house in the central square of Four Square City. This tea house was very unusual. The people who came to drink tea were all experts who wanted to form a team. As for why they wanted to form a team, it was naturally to explore the ruins. There were too many dangers in the ruins. If they went alone, they would most likely die in there. Chapter 782. As soon as Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng entered the tea house, they didn't join in the fun. Instead, they found a window seat and sat down, ordering 2 cups of tea. The tea house was huge, divided into 4 floors. The center was hollow, so one could see the 4th floor from the 1st floor, and the 1st floor from the 4th floor. Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng were on the east side of the 2nd floor. Although there were a lot of people in the tea house, there wasn't any noise. Everyone was like Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng, sitting at their seats and drinking tea with their eyes closed. Others had arranged to enter the secret chambers of each floor to discuss matters. Everything seemed to be in order. 2 guests, your tea. The footsteps of the waiter were very light. When he arrived in front of Yi Chen, he said softly. Yi Chen nodded and told the waiter to put down the tea. The freshly brewed tea was slightly hot. Yi Chen picked it up and blew on it a few times. Using this opportunity, he shifted his gaze and started to observe the people in the tea house. There was nothing much to see on the 1st floor. Everyone was at the Sea of Soul realm, and there wasn't a single half-step king. Yi Chen's gaze first fell on the 2nd floor. On the 2nd floor, there was only one person who caught Yi Chen's attention. It was the yellow-robed woman sitting on the west side. She looked to be in her 30s, and her face was tender and beautiful. Her nose was high, and her eyes were pitch black with a hint of deep yellow. Her gaze was very scattered, and it was hard to tell where her focus was. What caught Yi Chen's attention was not her appearance, but the extremely well-hidden strange aura on her body. This kind of aura was like a maggot in one's bones, extremely feminine. I wonder what kind of demonic beast cultivated it. Yi Chen thought to himself. Just as Yi Chen was sizing up the yellow-robed woman, she seemed to have sensed something. She turned her head toward Yi Chen, revealing a gentle yet chilling smile. Not to be trifled with. Yi Chen gave him a label. Compared to the 2nd floor, there were undoubtedly more people worthy of attention on the 3rd floor. There were twin brothers sitting by the railing. One was as majestic as a tower, while the other was as sturdy as a bull. Both of them wore copper earrings on their left and right ears respectively. There was a middle-aged scholar who was holding a sword and resting with his eyes closed. There was a haggard old woman with a sinister aura. There was a bald fatty with a tattoo on his head. There was also a strange old man wearing a raincoat. There are dozens of peak half-step kings in this tea house, and I can't see through 7 or 8 of them. I'm afraid they are close to strongest half-step kings. Murong Qingcheng was also observing the people in the tea house. Yi Chen said, the yellow-clothed woman on the 2nd floor and the old man in the raincoat on the 3rd floor should be the strongest. The others aren't weak either. They're all rare powerhouses. Among the ones worth paying attention to, the yellow-robed woman and the raincoat old man posed the greatest threat to Yi Chen. Even if they weren't strongest half-step kings, they wouldn't be far off. My eyesight is still a bit worse than yours. I don't see anything wrong with these two. Murong Qingcheng sized up the yellow-robed woman and the old man again and couldn't help but lightly shake her head. She didn't have the frightening intuition that Yi Chen had. Yi Chen chuckled. Based on my first impression, there might be some oversights. Perhaps there are even more hidden ones. The tea house was very quiet. From time to time, a group of people would walk out of the secret pavilion and leave the tea house. The number of people in the tea house was getting fewer and fewer, and it was getting quieter and quieter. Look, that yellow-robed woman has been invited away. Murong Qingcheng said. Yi Chen looked over and saw that the one who invited the yellow-robed woman was a waiter of a tea house. He led the woman to a secret pavilion on the 3rd floor. Soon after, the door of the pavilion closed, and the waiter walked out. Half a cup of tea's time later, the twin brothers were also invited into the secret pavilion. Another half a cup of tea's time later, the servant walked in front of Murong Qingcheng. Miss, the owner of the secret pavilion invites you for a chat. Oh. Murong Qingcheng wasn't surprised at all. After all, everyone came to the tea house for the same purpose, which was to form a team and explore the ruins together. I'm with him. Murong Qingcheng knew that with Yi Chen's cultivation base, he would be looked down upon. In this world, how many people could be like Yi Chen, who could kill people with higher realms as if they were eating? Those who saw him for the first time would think that he could compete with ordinary half-step kings at most. Whether he could win or not was another matter. The servant obviously got the hint. Then let's go together. Following the servant, The two arrived at the door of the secret pavilion on the 3rd floor. With a creaking sound, the secret pavilion's door opened, and Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng walked in. Seems like there is a soul stone array inlaid on the wall. Entering the secret pavilion, Yi Chen didn't find anything mysterious. Instead, his soul power could seep out, but outside, his soul power couldn't sense the situation inside. Inside the secret pavilion sat 9 people. Apart from the yellow-robed woman and the twin brothers, there were 2 young men, 1 middle-aged woman, 2 middle-aged men, and 1 old man. Sitting in the main seat was a middle-aged man. His face was bronze, and his skin had a metallic texture. His eyes were shining brightly like 2 shining black gems, more black than white. What's going on? Can a peak late sea of Soul Realm warrior join our team? Don't you think he'll drag us down? The middle-aged woman with a mean expression muttered. Hey, kid, you've come to the wrong door. One of the twin brothers grinned. The 2 youths had different expressions. One had a sneer on his face, while the other was expressionless. His eyelids were drooping, as if he didn't care about anything. Meanwhile, the yellow-faced man with a lustful gaze was releasing his soul power without the slightest scruple, sweeping across Yi Chen as if he wanted to humiliate him. On the other hand, the tanned man and the yellow-robed woman didn't make a sound, calmly observing the situation. Humph! Yi Chen lightly snorted and counterattacked with his soul power. The yellow-faced middle-aged man felt his soul tremble, and his body went out of control. What shocked him was that Yi Chen's soul power seemed to carry a cutting intent, as if it was cutting into his soul. The feeling of being like a fish on a chopping board was not pleasant. Seeing that it was the yellow-faced man who was at a disadvantage, the others' gazes toward Yi Chen couldn't help but change. This yellow-faced man was a half-step king after all, and his soul power wouldn't be weak. Moreover, he had formed a soul membrane. Not many here could make him suffer a loss using soul power. Thus, they all inwardly looked at Yi Chen a bit more highly, and their attitudes were somewhat restrained, at least on the surface. You too, please sit. The tanned man retracted his strange expression and indifferently said as he gestured with his palm. Murong Qingcheng nodded and reservedly sat down. Yi Chen's gaze swept past Lin Yuxuan, who was beside the tanned man, and calmly sat down without the slightest bit of restraint. You too, I've already discussed with everyone here to explore some ruins, and they have all agreed. The reason I've invited you two is because you two look different from the others, and your strength is certainly not weak. As the saying goes, one more person is one more portion of strength. The tanned man hadn't paid much attention to Yi Chen at the beginning, and only wanted to invite Murong Qingcheng. But now, he naturally couldn't say that. Moreover, Yi Chen didn't look as weak as he looked. The yellow-faced man, as a half-step king, had actually suffered quite a bit of loss in soul power. This spoke volumes. Yi Chen said, "Continue." The tanned man and everyone present were somewhat astonished. Between the two, Yi Chen seemed to be the leader. Could it be that this Yi Chen really had some ability, or was it only in name? Clearing his throat, the tanned man said in a deep voice, "If you two agree, I'll continue. If you two don't agree, then please leave. For the time being, not many people know about the ruins I've discovered. This information can't be leaked." Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng exchanged a glance, then Yi Chen said in a deep voice, "We agree." "All right then." The bronze-skinned middle-aged man smiled and said, "This relic is very large. The place I found is only a part of it. But even this part is not small. This relic is the relic of the True Water Palace." True Water Palace ruins? Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng were at a loss. They'd never heard of it before. Lin Yuxuan interjected, "True Water Palace was once the strongest fourth-grade sect in this ocean region. Its strength is not something any fourth-grade sect can compare to. In its most flourishing era, it had 13 life and death kings, and its master was one of the strongest titled monarchs at that time, True Water Emperor. 13 kings. True Water Emperor. Yi Chen was inwardly startled. This True Water Palace was indeed frightening at its peak. Nowadays, which sect could have 13 life and death kings? Not to mention a titled monarch, True Water Emperor. In ancient times, Titled monarchs were genuine monarchs who could leave their marks on the emperor scar steely. However, even the most flourishing sects would fall one day. The current True Water Palace was merely a pile of ruins, lying silently at the bottom of the ocean for countless years. There's something I'd like to tell everyone. This ruin is shrouded by a restriction, and for some reason, many frightening lifeforms have appeared inside. I've invited everyone to enter so that we can take care of each other and smoothly take away the treasures inside. The bronze-skinned, burly man explained. All right, when do we leave? These kinds of ruins would usually have great weapons. So, Yi Chen did not hesitate and agreed right away. In order to avoid any accidents, and I'm also afraid that someone might leak the news, we'll leave the moment we leave the secret pavilion. Does anyone have any objections? The tanned man's gaze swept the surroundings and asked. What objections can we have? It doesn't matter when we leave. The twin brothers grinned. Me neither. The cold-faced youngster nodded. The others naturally didn't have any objections. Wasn't the reason they came to Richlight Oceanspan to try their luck and obtain some treasures? All right, there's no rush for now. Everyone, rest for a while. After drinking some tea, we'll leave together. The tanned man didn't intend to invite anyone anymore. He nodded in satisfaction and lightly shook the bell in the secret pavilion, ordering people to bring tea and pastries. After drinking tea and eating some pastries, the tanned man stood up and said, "Let's go." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.